Do you have an estranged brother, an old man as a best friend, and access to a teenage girl's moped? Well, then you're well on your way to collegiate wrestling superstardom. We watched Legendary starring John Cena in the last of our WrestleMania episodes on today's Nothing Movies.
Welcome back, however you wish to self-identify, to Nothing Movies, where we ask the question, is this brother? It's the podcast where we go through an actor's filmography and choose the most anonymous and culturally untalked about movies that they've made and decide whether or not they've got a certain something or if they're just a whole lot of nothing. And today we are wrapping up WrestleMania by taking a look at 2010's Legendary. Jameson, the first... Oh, that's Jameson, by the way.
And I'm Jameson.
And I'm Kaz. Shit, I've done this so many times. You know by now.
You know who I am.
You know
You're never going to forget who I am.
And this is your first episode, in which case, welcome to the show. Thank you. You've picked an interesting first episode, but who knows? Like maybe
we got a big back catalog. We got to check some of those out and decide whether you want to commit to this. Go check that out.
Anyway, he's Jameson. I'm Kaz. Jameson, this is our fourth annual WrestleMania. Is the first time we've done a movie from WWE Studios.
It is. And it's also, well, we never mentioned it last time we recorded. It's the second time that we've ever recorded a WrestleMania in Podstream Studios. We didn't do that ever before. There was always recording at my place or over Zoom. Like last episode was the first time we were recorded in studio.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. Well,
so I just wanted to acknowledge that.
It's the first WrestleMania where it sounds better. It
Yeah.
sounds better than it normally does. Yes, we are back in Podstream Studios.
But to what you were saying, yes, this is the first time that we've ever done a WWE Studios movie, and we largely tried to avoid those because we thought that would be a little like low-hanging fruit for our discussions.
Yeah, but watching the trailers that played before the movie that we watched yesterday on the DVD,
it's a blind spot.
We should have been going back to that a while ago, because there are two things that we learned while watching those trailers. One, the amount of different genres that WWE Studios has worked within is much more diverse than I originally gave it credit for. And the second thing was whoever's working over there does not know how to cut a trailer together, because the tones are just like wildly all over the place. Like, Triple H is a single dad who's just trying to get to know his daughter better, but when his criminal past catches up with him, a school bus full of children will be abducted, and he's gonna learn that being the chaperone isn't as easy as it. And then cut to someone holding like a gun against his daughter's head, like, I'll fucking do it!
Yeah.
Like,
starring Ed Harris and like all these like prestigious actors
what
who
was
are...
that other trailer
Just
where,
in it for the paycheck.
where Ed Harris is just a teacher and we're just watching like this very po-faced drama about like a teacher, and we're like, why did WWE do this? And then there's just one scene of Randy Orton being an asshole, and it's like, okay, I guess Randy Orton was busy that day.
Contractually obligated appearance of a wrestler in this movie that does not look like it's going to heavily feature him, but damn it, he's in there, so they have an excuse to promote it on the WWE network.
Maybe that's our theme for next year's WrestleMania.
Yeah.
We just do like the weird movies from WWE Studios, because it looks like there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
It looks like we wouldn't be starving for content here.
You'd have to pay for like the WWE network subscription, which is like $15.
But you could only do it for 1 month and get everything.
Oh, true.
Hey, that's a perfect for our sake
Yeah.
here.
Do a
That's
promo.
absolutely perfect,
Good
because
thing
we
of it,
just watch wrestler movies within 1 month. So that's a fantastic idea, and that fantastic idea comes from our guest today. He's an actor and a Vancouver-based theater artist. You've seen him in shows like The X-Files, Supernatural, and Arrow. Troy Anthony Young, thanks for coming, buddy.
Well, thanks for having me.
Now, you yourself have not worked with John Cena, the star of Legendary, the movie that we're watching today, but you have been murdered on screen by the younger version of John Cena's character in Peacemaker. So if we squint our eyes, you are a John Cena adjacent podcast guest.
By 6 degrees, I'm technically in one project with him, so therefore I am 1 degree away from him.
There you
There you go.
That's all the degrees we need. Those are the type of degrees that we work with within this
That we work
show.
that we
It's
work
a
for
small
years
stretch.
to
It's a small stretch.
Troy, question that I had not posed to you until just now, and I hadn't thought. In fact, I think I've been pretty bad with posing this question to all of our guests this particular WrestleMania. How do you feel about pro wrestling? Do you have a?
I've been a big fan for a long time.
Yeah.
I watched it as a kid. Then I kind of got out of it, and then I kind of got back into it, and then there was the whole Monday Night Wars era, and I was really kind of into it at that point. But then school and life kind of got in the way, and I kind of got away from it. And then During the pandemic, I decided I'd ordered the WWE Network and started watching all these shows, and
So it's worth that $15 a month.
it was worth the $15 a month during that period of time. Yes.
What, just for my sake and for the people listening, what outside of wrestling itself, what other quality programs do you get with the WWE Network?
Oh man.
What sort of like? I imagine there's a lot of like reality shows.
They do.
You'd be surprised at what kind of content they have on there, because it's like looking into a parallel universe where like the entire world is just surrounding around wrestling. So they have animated shows, they have like hidden camera prank shows, they have diva-centric reality shows, they have original movies, they have documentaries, they have interview shows, Vince McMahon's talk show from the 80s.
Oh god, that was horrible.
Just as we've talked about in previous WrestleMania episodes.
If you ever need a laugh, just watch Tuesday Night Titans. That's my recommendation.
Oh, it was horrible. Yeah, it's all that stuff, and a lot of retrospective shows, and generally overnight they show a lot of old episodes of Monday Night Raw and the WCW shows and things like that. So
Okay, so it kind of like a sports center.
kind of like
Type
Sports
shit.
Center, but only WWE.
And it's fair to say that the massive catalog of WWE produced movies that you'll find in DVD clearance bins,
Gas stations around the
they'll
world.
throw one of those up there. Like you could turn on the WWE Network and See No Evil 2 might be playing at some
Once
sort
in
of
a
point.
while, honestly, off the top of my head, I don't remember seeing a lot of those on that network.
Right.
But I know they are allied with what is it, Peacock down in the States.
Yeah.
It's another streaming service, and they probably have all that stuff on there. Once in a while, there would be one of their movies, but mostly they don't. They just tend to focus on the wrestling content because that's what people want to see.
Cool.
Although to be fair, that was the through my cable subscription version of it. I don't know. I never bothered to look at what was available exclusively on the website version of it.
If you got WWE Premium,
Yeah, maybe there's that.
that's what they just broadcast it directly into your brain,
Yeah,
like
you
like
just
the
sit
Riddler
there
from
and-
Batman Forever. It's all wrestling all the time. You can't escape it. You close your eyes. There's a Slim Jim commercial going on. Yeah. It's not happening.
You
yeah.
open your eyes and somebody's elbow slamming you in the face.
Right. So this year on WrestleMania, we're focusing on what I like to refer to as the big three, the three wrestler turned actors who are succeeding the most in Hollywood right now. Of course, today's subject is John Cena, but we've done previous episodes on Dwayne Johnson and Dave Bautista, and what we were talking about is sort of the personas that those three gentlemen have. They kind of form an unofficial trifecta. Dwayne Johnson is sort of like the movie star. He's like the action hero. Dave Bautista, weirdly enough, is kind of the actor. Like he's the one popping up in like Denis Villeneuve movies. And John Cena, most delightful of all, has become the comedian. He's become the comic actor of that trio. That's what he has proven is sort of his strong suit. And as mentioned before, you're on Peacemaker, which is one of his most successful acting roles, period. And it sounds a bit trite to say in the age of superhero content sort of bleeding into all avenues of entertainment, but as it stands right now, Peacemaker is definitely my favorite TV show that I've watched this year.
I totally agree.
It's so funny, the way it deals with like trauma and PTSD in like a very serious way. Yeah, what was, I mean, you play the role of a worried man?
Terrified man.
Terrified man, of
Terrified
course.
man.
Yeah, so a step up from worried.
Step up from worried.
You were worried, man. Like when the cameras weren't on you, but then when they flipped on, the
Then I
worry,
was terrified.
the worry. But you were worried adjacent. You were worried at some point. That was the work that you as an actor.
That was my preparation time.
What was that experience working like on a show of that caliber?
Honestly, it was one of the neatest days I've ever had as an actor. There I was working with this young man who was brand new to the business. I think this was the second thing he'd ever been cast in. He's the one who plays John Cena Jr. And then I was working with this veteran who's got a resume as long as your arm. And the great it was like everything you learned in theater school and acting school about how to work in a scene with a partner all came into play there. Because here was this young man who had to do something really tough. I mean, I'm not giving anything away. The scene is his father hands him a knife and says, "Kill him," and I'm the guy he kills. The kid's got to go through hell to get to the point that he does it, and then he just starts like slasher stabbing, and it took the guy a little work to get up to it. And yeah, it would take me a lot of work to get up to it. But I knew that my job in that chair was I had to be there for him. So he had something to play off of the whole time, even if the camera wasn't on me, because it's not my scene. And then, so I did the best I could to keep giving him the energy he needed. and so did the other actor in the room. And then when it reversed and it was time to see my face, the older actor turns to the kid and says, now this is the part where you've got to do your job too and share the energy back the same way. And I was just like, damn, this is exactly what they teach you. This is an acting class right here. And what you don't see in the show is the fact that there was this really wicked blood pack setup under my shirt. I was wearing a breastplate under it, and then it was like covered in what essentially, those little ketchup packs you get from McDonald's.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They're basically those, but full of fake blood. And this kid had this little plastic slightly pointed knife handle, and it had little things on it to perforate the plastic ketchup packs. And he just goes to town on my chest. Of course, I can't feel it because I got this breastplate under, and it's just blood everywhere, to the point that it soaks through my pants, through my underwear. Nobody thought, hey, maybe we should be wearing something underneath because that's going to happen. I didn't think it. Wardrobe didn't think it. Director didn't think it. None of us thought of it. It was like, we need new pants for him and a new pair of shorts for him at the same time.
Because I would have to imagine you might have to do more than one take of that.
We did 2 of it,
yeah,
with the full scale, with the blood pack in place. We did a few takes without it, because of course they only had to show it when they showed me on it, and then they ended up not using any of it, which made me sad because it was really fun.
Right, and then you had sticky underwear for seemingly no reason, but that's the biz.
But they gave me a fresh pair of shorts to wear.
Hey, there you go.
Were they like DC branded shorts?
were they like the crew shorts that
little,
like everyone who worked on it gets?
They had little Aquaman on it.
Little Aquaman, they were actually like Wonder Woman Wonderoos.
There you go.
So.
Yeah, you have to put them on by spinning.
Yeah.
They just appear on you. Yeah. Well, that's so cool, man. So, the subject of today's podcast, we're running down the nothing movies, or nothing movie, as it is to say, because he hasn't had like a terribly long career, of John Cena. Do you have any passing thoughts on him as a performer? Again, I know we're kind of training into somewhat not complicated territory, because you are in a project with John Cena, so obviously you don't want to say anything that this is new to us. We haven't really had like a guest on the show who has like signed
connection.
I imagine has signed like NDAs or whatever. There are certain things that you can't discuss. But like, do you have any like thoughts or opinions on the man himself?
I didn't have the chance to work with the man. The day I was on set, he was actually in between scenes. He was shooting and recording an interview for the Late Show, and then I got home that night and watched that interview, and it was kind of surreal. But everybody on set, when you get on set, you get a feel for the place, and the crew was all really positive, and they were really having a lot of fun. And as a kind of nerdy little fan, I asked, so what's it like working with John? I call him John because
we're on first name basis.
And the reactions were all like easily positive, like not forced in any way, shape, or form. So, and everybody I've talked to that has worked closer with him on that set has said he's just a really great guy.
Yeah,
like he's as genuine as he comes across.
Yeah, you definitely get that vibe. I just really know him from like the history of wrestling, and he's one of those guys that is portrayed as like he's a total face, a big face of WWE, to the point where like he's very divisive among the fans, where like he's so perfect and so genuine and nice, and he's come across to boring to some of the fans, to the point now where like everyone in the stadium, his chant is, "Let's go Cena, Cena sucks. Let's go Cena, Cena sucks." And he loves that. He loves getting that kind of like one extreme to the other reaction from the crowd, because he knows he's doing his job well. But he's also like the record holder for like the most Make-A-Wish appearances. So like
that's right, I forgot about that.
He's the highest requested Make-A-Wish appearance guy.
And I imagine those requests are only going up now that he's starring in more and more blockbuster projects. Like he just showed up as
bigger and bigger.
He just shows up as John Cena, but I have to imagine he's probably making Peacemaker appearances now, because that's an easy costume to just throw on. Although I don't know how many like sick children are probably fans of that show. But also, if they're gonna die soon, you might as well let them watch R-rated James Gunn content. What else? What do we deny in these kids?
It's not gonna scar you for life. I'll tell you that much.
Well, that's a dark show.
It'll scar you for life, but that's only a couple of months.
Yeah. So
that's all right. Well, welcome to the podcast that essentially is going to sink any chance I have of having a career. But that's okay. I didn't have much of a career anyway to begin with.
You were using this to try to get a career?
It backfired. It backfired on me hardcore. Well, let's quickly run down the John Cena filmography. Like Dave Bautista, it's not like terribly huge. He hasn't been in a ton, but I do think it is somewhat interesting to see how his trajectory has changed and evolved as he has begun starring in movies, because he's only been at it at just over a decade. His first movie was in 2006. It was The Marine.
Yep.
Very typical WWE Studios movie.
That was when they were trying to make him something of the next Rock, and I certainly haven't seen it. The only thing I know about it is that the villain in that is played by Robert Patrick, who ended up playing his dad in Peacemaker. So that's interesting that they work together too. That's the only thing I remember. I remember the trailer for that movie, sort of like after the title comes up, sort of like the kiss-off line from the trailer is Robert Patrick's driving in the car and he looks out the window. He says, "Man, this guy's like the Terminator." And it's like, ha 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 ha. That's that self-referential bullshit. That made the trailer. That line made the trailer. They were very proud about that.
That was one of the better lines that they wanted to show off in the movie trailer.
But yeah, this is WWE Studios trying to make him like the next action hero, a mode that he was in for a while. His next movie is 2009's 12 Rounds. Where I believe he has to, it's kind of like a Die Hard with a Vengeance thing, where a terrorist, I think, kidnaps his wife, and he has to play like 12 rounds of a game to get them out, and the terrorist is like taunting him over the phone or whatever. It's from Rennie Harlan, who directed Cliffhanger and other better movies than this, I assume. But yeah, it's another actioner that has somewhat faded from memory. Even though WWE has attempted to make sequels out of all of their properties, so there is, confusingly, a 12 Rounds 2. And if you have...
So would that be 13 or 24
24 rounds?
rounds?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, if your movie title already has a number in it, you can't just slap a 2 or a 3 on the end of that, because that's just making things... It's like calling your movie 12 Monkeys 2. You know, like, there's or like...
12 Monkeys Squared, perhaps?
Yeah. Or like 8, a sequel to 7. I don't know what letter
we'll just have like
you
a
would
subtitle
replace.
under it, like the next generation. I don't know.
2000
Electric Boogaloo.
Not your Boogaloo.
Oh man, that will never die. That will never stop being funny.
Never.
What's another one of his movies, Cass?
Well, the next movie he makes after 12 Rounds is Legendary, the movie that we're talking about today. So he's got this there's not even a trifecta, like a whole bunch of WWE movies. The start of his career is just him doing WWE movies. He's also, unfortunately, I have to mention, he also does play the role of Fred's dad in the trilogy of Fred movies based on the popular YouTube character. Are you familiar with this, Troy?
No, and I'm already scared of it.
You should be.
We almost watched it. Well, we considered it.
Well, you pitched. We almost watched in the sense that you pitched it, and I immediately turned you down.
Yeah, and I'm grateful that you did. I don't think we could have stopped.
He is a YouTuber. I believe his name is Lucas Cruikshanks. He's come up with this character that's basically just like a hyperactive little kid, and he's pitch shift his voice to
obnoxiously high levels.
Obnoxiously high levels. And apparently this is so successful, he got a trilogy of movies, and he got John Cena to star as his dad. Without seeing them, I believe the joke is he's somewhat of a daydream dad. It's like, this is what I wish my dad was.
Really was.
Mm-hmm.
And then John Cena comes in, and he's basically just playing John Cena. But I believe, and I have no information to back this up, but I'm guessing that is his role in those movies.
And
He's
that's
in all three of
that's
those
a WWE
movies.
studio?
No,
I don't think
I think
so,
it's
no.
like a YouTube original movie. I think because the guy was a popular YouTuber.
So he probably self-financed it.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, with his YouTube residuals, which were quite high. At one point in time, he was maybe the most successful YouTuber. I don't know. I think.
I don't care.
This is when I start to feel my age.
Yeah.
Yes.
'Cause I'm like,
You kids and your friends and your...
Never heard of him.
Yeah.
2011, he's in a movie that we saw a trailer for yesterday, Jameson, called The Reunion.
Oh, yeah.
Which is some sort of like action nonsense where he teams up with his brothers to get revenge on something. I don't know.
As you do.
The tone is all over the place by the looks of it. Like they're starting off in the city, they're in the old west. It's like a high octane City Slickers by the looks of it.
2014 and 2015, he of course provides his voice for Scooby-Doo WrestleMania Mystery, and he's also in The Flintstones in WWE Stone Age SmackDown, where he portrays the role of John Cena Stone. Just some
That was some quality.
That's some quality pun names there.
What What a stretch.
I mean, like, Flintstones have always done that since, like, back in the day. Like, it was, like, Cary Grant rock or
and
something?
Mark Rock? I mean, come on, at least they had a little bit more creativity.
I think they just had Rock Hudson at some point, but it's like, that one you don't even need to
Halle
change.
Berry played Sharon Stone in the movie.
And then, just to finish up this trifecta, this movie comes a little bit later, but he's also in Surf's Up 2 Wave Mania. So do you remember the animated movie Surf's Up about penguins who are, like, surfers?
I saw that on the WWE network.
Yeah, because WWE got its claws into it, and the sequel...
And then they made all of these sea creatures into versions of the superstars, including Vince McMahon, who I seem to remember was a giant seagull.
I believe he was an otter.
Otter?
Or something,
otter?
yes.
I'm vaguely remembering...
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
John Cena is one of the wrestler penguins in that. Confusingly, his character is credited as JC, which I get that those are his initials, but, like, maybe sometime along the way someone should have been. It's a little awkward. He has risen. He has risen again.
I was thinking Jimmy Carter.
Cartoon Penguin just starts building houses.
Yeah.
2015, though, is kind of the year where the sort of the public perception of John Cena turns around. He's in 3 movies and they're all comedies. And I feel like this is sort of like the beginning of the new way of looking at John Cena. He has tiny roles in the movies Sisters, the Tina Fey, Amy Poehler movie where he plays a character named Pazuzu. And he has a very, very small role right at the very end of Daddy's Home, where he plays, I think, like the new stepfather for Mark Wahlberg's kids or something. And like that's basically like a cameo right in like the final minutes of that movie. But it was enough to kind of beef up that role, so he has a slightly bigger role in Daddy's Home too. But most notably, he's in the Judd Apatow movie Trainwreck.
Yes.
Where he plays
one of
Amy Schumer's boyfriends in that. And that, I think, was the first moment for me and first moment for a lot of people where we sort of realized, oh, John Cena's kind of funny. And, like, actually funny, not like ironic, oh, look at this wrestler doing this thing here.
Moves.
No, he has, like, actual comic timing. He's, like, very funny. He's self-effacing. He's good at making the joke about himself.
That one scene in there where he turns on Amy Schumer's character and says, "You're mean."
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that moment out of the whole movie. Well, that and him, quote unquote, dirty talking. But
yes.
But him, just this one really lovely, genuine moment where she's hurt him and he says, "You're mean." It hits.
Yeah.
You know?
And I feel like in a lot of Judd Apatow movies, you do get that one moment of actual emotion coming through. Characters kind of drop the yucks and they kind of become like real for a second. And weirdly enough, that moment is given to John Cena, of all people, in a movie that also features LeBron James as himself. A lot of people came away from that saying like, hey, LeBron James is kind of funny. Also, John Cena on the same level. That's what you kind of take away from that movie. A movie that I don't think people talk about all that often anymore. But I think I remember Trainwreck
It was pretty popular.
Trainwreck was okay. Yeah, it's not too bad. 2017, of course, he's the voice of Ferdinand the Bull in Ferdinand.
Of course.
Everyone's favorite animated classic that everyone watches all the time and definitely remembers came out. He's also in a movie, interestingly, you don't see a lot of these. He's in a legitimate two-hander that came out in theaters called The Wall, which is him and Aaron Taylor Johnson, and they're like soldiers in a war, and there's like a sniper.
Right. Oh,
and
I remember seeing the trailer.
I believe the entire movie is John Cena is injured, and they're like pinned down by a sniper, and they can't get out of
I've been meaning to watch that, actually.
That actually sounds like a good movie.
That sounds like that could be worth it. That's from Doug Liman, who did Edge of Tomorrow and The Bourne Identity, so, you know, like a decent director there. So, you know, that,
like set in one location.
Yeah, that could be a decent little buried gem. 2018, I feel like this is like the next step up for Cena, because he's done a lot of comedies, but it's the first time he gets to play the lead in a comedy. 2018 is Blockers, which is another pretty funny movie that he's pretty funny
Is
in.
it? I remember the trailer and thinking that it looks really stupid.
I
thought to myself, Cena deserves better.
But we were definitely not the demographic that was in
Okay, maybe that's what.
I think that movie's pretty funny. I remember seeing that movie with a past guest and friend of the podcast, Harrison Mooney, and his wife. And I remember that experience because we were the only 3 people in the movie theater. And when the lights went down, we're all like, awesome. This is so awesome when this happens. And I remember that because we just talked as loud as we wanted to, and no one else came in. And it was a great time because we were just commenting on things. We were just like yelling at the
sitting
screen.
in your living room, but with a great big screen.
Exactly.
Okay.
System.
I love it.
I can get
love
behind that.
Somebody else making the snacks.
2018, he's also in Bumblebee, which is both the best live-action Transformers movie and a movie I completely forgot that he was in. Despite him being, like, the second billed actor in that.
Yeah, it was like Haley Steinfeld, the car.
It's just credited as the car.
The car and the two humans.
John.
He doesn't have, like, the interesting part in it. He's like the military guy. He's all like, oh, I'm going to get that Bumblebee. And then at the end of the movie, he's all like, you know what, Bumblebee? You're all right. Get out of here. But, yeah, it's...
See, I think I always took Bumblebee to be like a prequel they didn't intend to make as a prequel.
It's like a prequel / soft reboot.
Yeah. And
'Cause they kind of...
there was that heavy-duty military guy in the Transformers movies right from the beginning. And I kind of figured that was who John Cena was to become.
They had like the team up of the super memorable team up of Josh Duhamel and Tyrese in those movies, kind of playing like the military guys. Yeah. And then you're all like, oh yeah, those were characters. And then you go back and you're like, wait, they're in every one of those movies, and I do not remember like a single line of dialogue
it's
they
their
say
franchise.
Over 5 movies. It kind of weirdly is.
Well, if you think about it, like, because the bots aren't on screen, they're the ones on set all the time.
Yeah.
And then just big honking green screens.
Oh, yeah.
But I think the thing people liked about Bumblebee is certainly like that opening like 15 minutes that actually shows the Transformers looking like they did in the cartoon on Cybertron doing Transformer stuff. And they notably look a little bit different than they look in the Michael Bay movies. And so I think they kind of like took Bumblebee as an opportunity to be all like, we don't really need to reference the other Transformers movies. We can just kind of like soft reboot this, and I think people will be happy. And generally people were. I think people think that movie's pretty good.
I got a kick out of it.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
I'll admit I kind of liked it more than the other ones.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Definitely. Yeah. 2019, 2020, there's a couple of back-to-back stinkers here. He's in Playing with Fire, which is his, as we
was
talked...
that the one where he's a fire jumper?
Or fireman or something this is the one, this is the trend that we always see in like these big tough guy action star things that everyone has to inevitably do. This is the movie where he has to act opposite kids. And this is, I believe it's him, Keegan-Michael Key, and John Leguizamo as 3 firefighters who have to look after a bunch of kids. So it's his The Game Plan, it's his The Pacifier, My Spy, and everything. Like, yeah, it's by all accounts a terrible film that no one seemed to enjoy. And then, hilariously, he also provides a voice in the movie Doolittle with Robert Downey Jr. that sat on the shelf for several years and then was escaped into the January of 2020 to a resounding thud. I believe he voices a polar bear in that.
It's like they knew the pandemic was coming and nobody could see it.
So let's get this out.
Let's
here.
get this off the books.
Doolittle's fault.
This isn't a conspiracy theory broadcast, right?
Could be
and
at
the show
any
takes
point.
A sharp left turn.
Yeah.
It's kind of whatever podcast we want it to be on any given day. We've gone into conspiracy theories before. Not
the BJ Bo Davis
the
stuff?
BJ Bo Davis stuff, but we won't
open up that wound again because it costs someone their life.
A bit too much. He's also listen to our old episodes, Troy. We don't have the time to get into it right now. 2021, he's in a pretty lame comedy that again escaped onto Disney Plus called Vacation Friends, where I think Lil Rel is on his honeymoon and he meets an obnoxious couple, and John Cena is one of them, and he can't shake them. He can't get rid of his vacation friends. So that's a piece of content that I haven't checked out.
That's some weird metaphor for an STI you picked up in Mexico, or?
Well, I just laughed the first time I saw. I mean, that's an excellent point, Troy. I just laughed when I saw that poster because it's like Lil Rel and his wife or fiance, and then John Cena and his wife, and they're he's got like his arms draped around. He was all like and it's all like, oh, these guys are annoying, these guys. But because of who they've cast, you see the poster. They very easily could have renamed that movie White People. It's just like the look on his face is just like, yep, this is kind of what we do. But then 2021, he has 2 big blockbusters. He's got The Suicide Squad, of course, terrifically entertaining movie that he's in a tremendous cast of characters. He's kind of the breakout of. Like, once again, at this point, we all knew that John Cena was funny, but I think he really kind of step things up. Peacemaker is a tremendous role for him that he's really taken and run with, and it is with the TV show. It's allowed him to go to like some real surprisingly dramatic places that he's really.
There's the sequence House of Pain, that song that's playing when he's having that breakdown. It's the thing that leads into the scene that I did.
Yeah.
I honestly, I was watching the episode and I didn't know that was the one I was in, and so that's not important. But him having that incredible moment where he's got the beer in his hand and he's thinking about his father and all the crap that his dad put him through, and just like the guy has chops.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you wouldn't think that some goofy wrestler back from the Ruthless Aggression era
bad man,
could actually pull off what he's doing, but the guy actually has some acting chops.
But then the other interesting thing in 2021, the other blockbuster he has is Fast and Furious 9, where he plays Vin Diesel's up until this point never mentioned before brother. Cast in that is very strange and is commented on in the movie where
you have to do that.
Because you have to do that. You have to have a line where the villain says it's super weird that you guys are related because you look nothing alike. You obviously come from different ethnicities.
Vin Diesel, John Cena, not exactly the same. But the thing is like, tree.
Yeah, John Cena is now at this point where he has done comedy so successfully, and he's such like a likable, charismatic guy. When you cast him as the Heavy,
nobody buys it.
It doesn't. No one really buys it anymore. Like, we kind of barely bought it to begin with, but going back to that now doesn't quite work. Now, that's not to say that John Cena can't do things that are slightly more dramatic now. It's just like it's always a little hard to buy Dwayne Johnson as a villain, but it's nigh impossible to buy John Cena as one, because he's just such a happy, and when he does despicable stuff, it's, you know, in terms of like a character like Peacemaker who's an anti-hero who does bad things, but he obviously feels conflicted about it, and the show is somewhat about him wrestling with the fact that, no pun intended,
but he's a likable asshole is what you're saying.
Sure, yeah something like that. But coming up, he's also in the contentious Fast 10, which is undergoing director change, and who knows how much more of a debacle that's going to be.
Is it sad that the only one of that entire series I watched was Tokyo Drift?
No, because that's a good one.
It's one more than I've watched.
And
that's one of the better ones.
And it, as I understand it, has nothing to do with the rest of them.
No, but ironically, it like in terms of where it takes place in the chronology, it's actually one of the earlier ones. So if you wanted to go back and like watch the other Fast and Furious movies, you're actually at a good place, because that one actually takes place before. I think in terms of like the timeline, it might be number 2. So you're actually not in like a bad sense. And Fast and Furious 9 brings back a lot of the characters from Tokyo Drift. It's actually kind of funny. Like, the lead of that movie is Lucas Black, and he plays like the shitty little American teenager who's like racing fast cars, and he's like our Paul Walker surrogate. Mm-hmm. In the time that in between Tokyo Drift and Fast 9, Lucas Black has aged, and he's now like a middle-aged man, and he's kind of aged into like a sort of offbeat looking character actor. So the lead of Fast and Furious 3 in Fast and Furious 9 is now the weird tech guy who like builds like rockets in his background and stuff. And it's all like, this is wow. This guy used to be the protagonist of this series, and now he's like aged into like the weird guy that just makes rockets and stuff, and it's really funny. It's one of the funniest parts of that movie.
Everybody can have the build of a Vin Diesel or a Dwayne Johnson at 50.
Sure, I mean, I kind of have the build of Vin Diesel right now, so
to be fair, I haven't seen a recent photo.
There's a lot of creative camera work on that series. Let's say a lot of shooting Vin from certain angles. Let us say that.
Well, but then you know what? I don't want to spend the kind of effort it would take to stay in that kind of shape either.
Oh no.
Like, I can't.
Your body's going to break down eventually anyways. You can eat right, you can exercise, you're going to die eventually anyway. So what's the point?
Well, I mean, like, you think about, John Cena on the set of Peacemaker. He's got to stay looking good all the time. Mm-hmm. Plus, he's the kind of guy who will occasionally jump out and go back to wrestle. So he's got to keep himself in near to performance shape constantly. I don't know how you do that when you're doing a movie. A TV series, when you're doing 15-hour days every day, 5 days a week.
One wonders the kind of schedule that guy has to have, because you are right. He is still, by all accounts, an active WWE wrestler, so he has that career going on, but he's also starring in film and television, not to mention all of his charity work and the other things that he's
and
doing.
the press junkets he has to do.
He's got to do. I mean, the guy, admittedly, he's certainly very much a part-time wrestler nowadays. He came back for, I think it was about 6 weeks last summer, which was just after Peacemaker wrapped, and probably before he started shooting whatever came up next.
Yeah.
The new Suicide Squad? No, that was before. My timelines are off. But he was only there for 6 weeks and then went back into doing film work.
Wow, the life of a wrestler turned actor. Because the only career that's like more insane than that is Dwayne Johnson. Dwayne Johnson, and like the other thing that we're not factoring in is all the time he has to devote to working out and keeping his body at that level.
I mean, that's not you go for a 20-minute jog every morning.
Mm-hmm.
That's like 2 to 3 hours of really strenuous working out to look that good.
Yeah.
And you have to factor in cool down time because otherwise you end up with injuries. So I have to imagine even his breaks are like relegated so specifically to his schedule. Yeah, it would just I wouldn't be able to.
I know I've talked to stunt people that work in the industry, and
right.
I've asked them questions about the leads that have to look really good when they take their shirt off, and most of them have it in their contracts that they have workout periods scheduled into their day.
Yeah.
So they're not necessarily on set as long, but they have this definite amount of time they get to work out every day because they have to look good and they have to keep themselves in shape.
Yeah, I think, what did I see? It was like an interview with either Chris Evans or Chris Hemsworth or one of the Marvel Chris's, and they were saying like, as much as I love like working on these projects and as much as they're being embraced by the fans, what I have to put my body through is exhausting. And I'm sick of chicken and broccoli. I can't wait to have a birthday cake again when I retire from these movies. So yeah, it's an absolute commitment that these performers have to put themselves through.
I believe that was Chris Elliott who said that. He was talking about Scary.
I forget which Marvel movie he's
talking about
in.
Scary Movie 2.
Okay.
Sorry, Troy, you were saying.
And then that's not even going into like the extreme moments. Like I think we've all heard the story about Hugh Jackman having to basically dehydrate to look as good as he did for one afternoon scene, like to the point of close to being, fainting dead from exhaustion. Because they haven't drank water all day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I could do it.
No.
I honestly don't think I could.
Like in terms
I'm
of
glad I'm not that kind of person.
Oh, no.
Kind of wish at times that I could be that kind of person, or at least the kind that enjoys working.
But you don't want to put in the work.
Well, I don't enjoy it as much as some people do. I mean, I used to go to the gym all the time, and I got bored. But that's neither here nor there.
Well, a lot of those like Hollywood actors. I mean, the thing is that like most of them are getting paid to work out, and they're getting paid to shape their bodies into like an Adonis style level, and to keep them at that way.
They also know that if they don't stay that way, they're out of work.
And they get personal trainers who like push them to like
and chefs
keep
and
them
meal
going
plans
and everything. So,
all that taken care of for them. Yeah.
There's a lot of your soul that you sign away when you agree to be one of the Chris's. The only other upcoming movie that John Cena, I just want to reference this. He's in a movie coming out called Coyote versus Acme, which, as it states, is the spin-off Wile E. Coyote movie that the plot of which is about Wile E. Coyote suing Acme for all of the products that fail. And I think
I am in for this.
Yes.
I am all about this now.
It's John Cena and Will Forte. I believe they might be playing like lawyers. One of them is Coyote's lawyer. One of them is Acme's lawyer. The screenplay is co-written by James Gunn. So at the very least, there will be some jokes.
Some subversion,
here.
yeah.
Like if
honestly, he's got to be one of the James Gunn. I'm just getting more and more respect for.
Oh yeah.
Like side note, a friend of mine I went to high school with, Carissa Barton, incredibly talented dancer and choreographer, choreographed the opening sequence for Peacemaker.
Oh my God, Troy. She is my new favorite person.
I know, and that thing just blew up.
I like sometimes, like you're tempted to like skip the intro when it comes up. I watched it every time. I watched it every time because there's always something new to look at. There was always a new person to like focus on to see what choreography they were doing. I was obsessed with it. I downloaded that song, that Wigwam song, and I just like listened to it like on my days off. It was great. Yeah,
like she and because I follow her on Instagram and such, she posted a lot of background information about the shooting of that sequence. And James Gunn goes on and he's talking, and damn, dude's funny.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I imagine.
He seems like another lovely person. Just a nice person to work with.
I didn't get to meet the man, if he was even in town when I was shooting. But just a hilarious guy.
But he wrote every episode of that show.
I believe so, yes.
Yes. So,
he directed a lot of them. He didn't direct the episode I did.
Right. Because that's
that's
always
luck.
the way.
It's just my luck.
Yeah.
But yeah, and he executive produced the entire series as well.
Yes.
So he was probably in Vancouver at the time, but maybe he's having a Monday off. I don't know.
He's definitely worked within Vancouver before, because some people I know, some actors here in Vancouver also popped up in the movie Suicide Squad. So I think he must have shot something here. Did he shoot Slither here?
I was going to ask him.
Is that the Nathan Fillion connection?
Yep.
I don't know. I'd have to look that up. But yeah, James Gunn has definitely spent some time in Vancouver.
Yeah, I'm sure.
For sure. All right, well, should we take a break, and then when we come back, we'll start talking about Legendary. We'll start talking. We'll go all the way back to the beginning of John Cena's career.
Yeah,
and
his legendary career.
Yes. All right, fantastic. Do you have a bathroom pun for us? Because once again, I didn't.
You can't pee me.
What?
That's his thing.
You can't see.
Remember, this is about wrestling and wrestlers.
That's the other thing. Is John Cena's got like that whole thing where like you can't see it. He like appears behind people. Yeah.
Did his whole wave in front of his face.
I don't know where that actually came from. Like, that's going back a long ways when I wasn't really watching.
I wonder if it's like a Marine thing, because his thing for a while was that he was super, like, support the troops. He always wore, like, military cargo shorts.
He was the Marine.
Yeah, he was in the Marine.
All right, well, you can't pee us.
Google that. Yeah. You can't pee me.
You can't pee us, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll be back, and we'll start talking about the movie. Okay. All right.
On May 24th, an 18-year-old armed gunman killed 19 children and 2 teachers at a Texas elementary school. This was just 10 days removed from a racially motivated mass shooting in Buffalo, New York, and another example in the long line of gun massacres in the United States. Mass shootings in America have frequently led to public protest and calls for stricter background checks on gun sales and other firearm controls common in other countries. But such measures have repeatedly failed in the face of strong political opposition. That's where the Everytown organization comes in. Everytown is the largest gun violence prevention organization in America. It is made up of more than 8 million mayors, parents, teachers, survivors, gun owners, students, and everyday Americans who look to make their communities safer. Since 2013, Everytown has combined the best minds in research, policy, litigation, advocacy, and grassroots organizing to grow a shared vision of ending gun violence. They have worked on such solutions as stricter background checks, closing gun loopholes, violence intervention programs, secure gun storage, and are addressing root causes of many types of gun violence, from ghost guns, hate crimes, police violence, gang violence, domestic abuse, and mental health issues. Moreover, they offer survivor support programs to those who have had their lives affected and their loved ones taken from them. If you would like to donate to the Everytown organization, a group that has seen and driven meaningful victories in combating gun violence in the United States, please visit their website at everytown.org. You can learn about their history, their political victories, locate local chapters, and donate to their cause. Again, that website is everytown.org.
And we're back. Hey. No, the guest doesn't often get to do that. All right, that's fine.
Oh.
Did you say, and we're back?
I did, but I didn't mean to be stepping on anybody's
you want to
toes.
say? You want to say it again?
Take the food right out of my mouth, why don't you?
It was a little. It was a little. You want you to take the opportunity? You know what? Really say it. Really say it. Dude,
And we're back.
there you go.
There you go.
Like you
I was
actually,
just saying it because I noticed we were recording again.
because you actually have a voice for radio.
I certainly have a face for radio.
Yes.
Oh, don't be so hard on yourself.
Oh, come on, man.
But you're right.
Oh wow! All right.
I'm kidding. No, we bonded.
We bonded.
You guys went to the bathroom twice together. That's how it
What
works.
are you implying?
I'm implying that you went to
can't
the
pee
bathroom. Yeah. So, Legendary from 2010, directed by Mel Damsky. This is a varied career here. This guy was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Documentary Short Subject for a movie called Still Kicking: The Fabulous Palm Springs Follies. Sounds great. He's worked in television a lot. He's directed episodes of many TV shows. Currently, he works a lot with Hallmark, doing Christmas movies and original shows with them. So
he lives in Vancouver now.
Once again, Jameson, we find ourselves in the position where we might want to try and say nice things about this director, because there's a strong possibility that Troy and I might end up working for him one day. So, hey, Mel.
To reiterate what I said, really? An Oscar?
Yeah.
Wow.
Lots of people.
Congratulations,
that.
friend.
That was why I sounded surprised. I hadn't done the research on that.
You look into a lot of these short movies that have been nominated for the Oscars. You see some interesting people like nominated. Like so much happened with like the snafu of this year's Academy Awards. I think one of the things that barely anyone talks about is that Riz Ahmed won the Oscar this year for live action short film. And no one else is commenting on that. It's all like, oh, an actor that everyone likes and enjoys has an Oscar for a movie that no one has seen. So
well, and I mean, everybody starts somewhere.
Absolutely.
Like the guy who directed Philadelphia and Silence of the Lambs,
Jonathan Demme,
who I was lucky enough to work with on Fringe not Fringe. I'm sorry, The Killing. Years ago.
Awesome.
And
that was one of the last things he directed, I believe.
It may have been.
Yes.
It may have been. I mean, but if you look into his history, he did women's prison films.
Damn straight.
Back in the 70s.
Caged Heat.
Caged
Pretty
Heat.
good movie.
You know, you got to start somewhere. And that man went on to win 2 Oscars.
I believe he only had one.
Didn't he get one for Silence of the Lambs and Philadelphia?
He did not get nominated for Philadelphia. That was an Oscar movie. Like Tom Hanks won Best Actor for that. I think that's kind of where. No, it's Tom Hanks and Bruce Springsteen are the only people who won Oscars for Philadelphia. Jonathan Demme is one of those interesting careers where he gets nominated and wins Best Director and then never nominated again. A lot of movies he made got nominated, but that's his own. Him and Robert Zemeckis are one for one. They won once and they've never been recognized again. And in Jonathan Demme's case, he never will because he has passed away. Yeah. But yeah, interesting.
Really great.
So legendary.
You always do this. I'm not done talking about Mel Damsky. I'm gonna work through it. I'm gonna work through the tangents. All right. So he's worked in TV a lot. He was the executive producer of the TV show Psych, and he directed the majority of that television show. And he has directed a couple of other movies, but the only one that I want to mention is because I am fairly confident, Jameson, that one day I want to do an episode on this. It's actually a series that I've been thinking about for a while since we sort of changed the format of this podcast. I think it would be cool if we did a mini-series on the nothing movies of the Monty Python guys. Like the movies that they made that aren't Monty Python movies, but they like a bunch of them were in together.
What, like A Fish Called Wanda?
Like Fish Called Wanda.
That's like
kind of a prime example.
That's a prime example, except that's not a nothing movie. That's a very well-known comedy.
Yeah. Okay.
Mel Damsky directed a high choice for this particular miniseries. He directed a film called Yellowbeard, which is a pirate comedy that is one of, if not the only movie that gave a leading role to the great Graham Chapman, who was always kind of my favorite Python.
He was the lead in Holy Grail.
The lead in a non-Monty Python movie.
Okay. Yeah.
Outside of this. But yeah, this is a pirate comedy where Graham Chapman plays the character of Captain Yellowbeard. Listen to this cast. This cast is amazing. So Graham Chapman, they also roped in Eric Idle and John Cleese, so they're also in this. It's the final screen performance of both Spike Milligan and Marty Feldman. They also got Marty Feldman from Young Frankenstein, Igor. The gentleman with the interesting face.
Gotcha, yeah.
And the eyes that seem to go every direction at one time.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Young Frankenstein, the movie also has Peter Boyle and Madeline Kahn, so a little bit of a Mel Brooks reunion here. Also, James Mason, Susanna York, Cheech and Chong, and uncredited David Bowie playing a character named The Shark. I'm calling my shot right now, man. This would be an amazing movie to do an episode. Right. It's probably not very funny, but it would be interesting to talk about why it's not funny. So Mel, you're on blast. We'll be taking another look at something
heads
that
up. This is your fair warning.
In some past. Now,
your life's about to change forever because 2 jackasses from Vancouver are gonna riff on your pirate movie.
One of whom would very much like to be cast in something that you do one of these days. So legendary. That's your cue.
Oh, James. Now it's my turn to talk? All right, so this is a WWE-made movie about actual wrestling, which I found pretty interesting. It's set in Riverdale, Minnesota?
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. Yes.
Was Riverdale the name of the town or just the school?
It was the name of the school.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's like Riverdale High.
And obviously this movie came out before Riverdale, the TV show, but still...
But post Riverdale, the Archie comics.
A pretty famous name for like a fictional high school. They could have maybe done another pass on that.
I don't know. I saw the RHSs on the cheerleader shirts, and my first shot was Rocky Horror Show. But...
Rocky Horror High School. Rocky High School.
I wonder if it's like the thing with The Simpsons, how they named the town Springfield because it was like the most common name for a town in America. Riverdale is just like the most common name for schools in America. That's my assumption. Anyways, there is this little high school nerd named Calvin Shetley, who is the son of a high school wrestling prodigy who has since passed on. He's had a brother who's estranged from the family, and he really has nothing going on for himself in his life. He busies himself with little outboard motor projects out by the pond, and he's bullied by the local bullies. What the fuck's up with that?
I guess was
Oh, but that was supposed to mean something deep.
it was,
Yeah.
it happened so quickly. I didn't even notice it at first, and then jumping to the end of the movie,
It's a big thing.
His girlfriend gives him like a motor,
A pump motor or
a
something?
pump motor, and I leaned over to Jameson. I'm like, why the fuck did she get from that? It's like it's cause,
And I was like, I don't know. Is it because in the opening shot of the movie, he's like tinkering away at some little outboard motor?
Okay, now I'm not a fisherman.
Yeah.
Nor
This
do
is
I
breaking
understand
news.
the
This is
concept.
breaking news right here on the-
Hey,
yeah.
I grew up in Alberta. I should know these things, but
Sure.
no. But he's got the catfish hole, and he's got the tub full of catfish, and he's got a pump, and it's something to do with stocking the lake.
Okay.
stalking the lake.
This I do know. Stocking a lake or a pond or something is literally putting fish into a place where they don't normally live so people can catch them.
Oh, interesting. Sounds like cheating.
It's in a way it's cheating, but this is actually done in a few places in Alberta because not every place has a lake where you can go. So they will stock a pond or stock a lake for the locals to go fishing. S-T-O-C-K.
Oh, okay.
Not stock like I'm chasing
not like
you quietly.
I'm
Like a sexual predator.
not like I'm Danny Glover waiting in the bushes, like trying to wait until like an impressionable young white boy comes on so I can give him life advice to. He's doing some pond stalking. Let's be honest.
Stocking.
He also seems to be the only fisherman in this movie.
The only person fishing in the whole place, and yet somehow
Calvin is providing him with
Calvin
something
makes
to
money
do.
off of this catfish thing.
Sure.
I don't know how it works.
Yeah, but it really doesn't fucking matter for the rest of the movie.
Until the very end.
Yeah, so he's accosted by these bullies who like shove him like waist deep into the lake, and Danny Glover like witnessed it all, and he's
And did not step in.
did
to,
not
to
step
help.
in
No.
to help him or anything.
He's got to find his own way. He's got to get through this
why-
on
why-
his own.
Why didn't you defend yourself, boy? And
He just blows it off.
yeah, exactly. He's like, whatever. Like, I don't know you, stranger.
Why are you fish stalking me?
Is there nowhere else you can go? I gotta say, there was a lot of mystery initially on with Danny Glover's character, and the bulk of the comedy for Kaz and I just came with like filling in his backstory. Because there's nothing to do for him in this movie for the most part.
He goes into this whole like Soonerville narration sequence at the very beginning. The minute
Yes.
I heard the narration, I was like, "Oh God, it's gonna be that movie," and then he disappears.
Yeah.
He does the first scene, and then he disappears, and I'm like, I thought they were going with the tropey, wise black man.
I mean, they do.
They do.
I mean, they do.
They don't overdo it.
Yeah.
They leave it.
I kind of wish they had overdone it. I'm not gonna lie. The movie needed more Danny.
They've only done it like I think 3 times in the movie, and you were saying like, oh, there's like I wish there was like more of Danny Glover. And I was thinking there's just enough of him in here where you could like fill in some blanks yourself.
Yeah. So we don't want to jump to the ending.
No.
But there is a reveal about Danny Glover that I was not happy.
We were
about.
crestfallen
I was somewhat disappointed that.
Honestly, yeah, me
Yeah.
too.
So Calvin lives with his mother, who's busy dating a sister district attorneys or whatever.
Played by the amazingly overqualified Patricia Clarkson.
By the too good for this movie, Patricia
who,
Clarkson.
who is giving it? Who is
She is serving up the show the whole time.
Yeah. She's great. When is she not great? She's fantastic in this, and
I've never seen her in anything I didn't
she
like.
got. He's all like, yeah, I'll take WWE's money, and I'll give you the exact same performance I would give for any of these big Hollywood directors that I'm working with here. Yeah,
Which is the sign of a true professional.
absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
Not gonna phone it in, no matter what you give her.
She is a widower because Calvin and his brother Mike's father was tragically killed in a one-car accident, as according to the It's not funny because I've never seen that like printed out in a single car accident. You know, like just call it like a car accident or a collision or an accident. One car accident. I don't
You
know.
might hear single vehicle.
Single vehicle maybe.
You know.
Yeah, and I just thought it was
So that implies they crashed into something. Yeah.
Yeah, and because of that, she is very overprotective of Calvin and his trajectory in life. So when he starts showing interest in joining the high school wrestling team, she puts her foot down like, no, like it drove your brother away from me. It took your
wrestling wrecks your family.
Exactly.
Wrestling killed your father, which it kind of did, actually, as we find out over the course of this. Yeah. Now, is there a specific thing that happens to Calvin that kind of spurns this new interest in wrestling? Because for me, it kind of seems like it comes out of nowhere.
He sort of come out of left field, I think.
He sits in on like a wrestling practice with the team, and it was shot sort of like a sexual awakening, because he is just riveted on these high school boys.
Boys in shorts
rolling around on each other.
Yeah, I mean, like, you could argue that getting beaten up by the bully might have like spurned his I should learn a way to like defend myself, and then he got kind of like, obviously he would know that his family has like this tie to wrestling or whatever, but maybe he's just been in a situation where it's all like, hey, mom doesn't want me to think about that, but now he's getting older and everything. It's all like, I really don't enjoy getting my ass kicked. Maybe it's time to look into this thing that is like
could teach me to
irrevocably tied to my family. You know,
that is in my blood.
Well, like I couldn't help but make the comparison to the Karate Kid.
I literally was just thinking of. It kind of is
that kind of story.
It kind of is the WWE does the Karate Kid.
Yeah, it kind of poorly does it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, when Pat Morita is played by John Cena, they've with Danny Glover right there. I mean, like, they kind of it got lost somewhere along the way.
Again, with the why was Danny Glover there question. They could have gone with
I asked
him
myself,
or without him. They didn't need that character.
I couldn't disagree more. This movie,
okay.
Danny Glover is solely needed in this movie. He brought so much joy to my viewing.
Honestly, it made it worth watching sometimes. But no, I'm no writer by any stretch of the imagination. But I see things and I sometimes wonder, why is that still in that script? And Danny Glover's character could have been encapsulated with the coach.
Oh, the coach of the wrestling team.
The coach of the wrestling team.
Sure.
Because you need the wise old man trope. It has to be there.
Mm-hmm.
But they had Danny Glover. They had the coach. They have the brother. All of whom are going to help teach this kid how to wrestle.
All these mentor figures.
And they could have combined them into one character.
Yeah. Yeah,
and I think it would have been a more powerful story that way, but we wouldn't get the fun reveal at the end.
Fun, sure. I mean, that's fun for some people. And it is interesting that the coach of the wrestling team, ultimately, he's not really shown doing much to improve Cal as an athlete or whatever. Like, he's kind of like the third least important. And interestingly enough, the coach, played by the writer of the movie, who kind of
put that together.
Kind of gave himself sort of a nothing role. Like, it's not like a nothing role, but like he doesn't do a ton. He does what the script requires the coach to do at that moment. Sometimes he's with Cal, he's all like, hey, sometimes losses are all right. Other times he's all like, if you lose one more time, Cal, you're out of here.
Well, at that point he's already on a losing streak, so it's like, okay, I've given you as much rope as I can, but like, holy shit, kid, you're a liability on the team now.
Yeah.
So, but like, even like as far as like being a coach, there's one point near the end where Calvin's in like the competition and he looks at like who he's up against. He goes like, hey coach, what do you know about my opponent?
You know anything about Leonard?
Well, from what I hear, he puts his pants on one leg at a time.
Thanks, coach.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck's that gonna do now?
That's the most useful thing you've said so far.
Yeah.
In the entire hour and a half of this movie.
Yeah.
Thus far.
The coach is played by the writer of the movie, and his son plays the head bully, the floppy-haired bully.
See, this is why you should read the credits.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Who is also the star of that MTV Teen Wolf series that his dad is also in. So apparently they're a package deal. Apparently it's all like, I don't do any projects without my dad. You gotta roll for my old man.
My favorite thing about that bully character is he always seems to set up his own mother for zingers.
That's right. That's like a running thing.
Which makes you wonder what the writer's relationship
with his own wife is.
Yeah, maybe it's a contentious.
Was this a bad time?
Yeah.
You guys have some kind of history between you?
Yeah, Coach. I think Chetley here is interested in my mother.
Chudley, are you interested in Barrow's mother?
No, sir. At least not with all her clothes on.
Feeling lucky?
I don't know, Barrow. Is your mother here?
What the hell does that mean?
Dude, with your mom? so gross.
Shut up.
You don't need to keep bringing it back.
Yeah.
In fact,
he brings
you're
it
making
back.
you're making yourself look more stupid by bringing it up again.
And give little Cal some credit right there. He's like, yeah, only when she's naked. Like, all right.
Maybe the bully's trying to set his mom up.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, maybe mom's sitting at home bored.
Yeah. Anyway.
So legendary. Sorry.
So Calvin's not having a lot of success with the wrestling team, probably because we never see any like training montages when he joins the team.
And yet the movie is like 40% training montage.
Yeah.
But none of them go the distance it should.
No.
They do these like 20-second montages. I'm like, no, give me 4 minutes and a heavy metal song.
The scenes are so short in this movie.
Yeah.
And they drop in like weird scenes in the middle of other scenes that make you wonder why they drop that there. Like there'll be like a training montage between John Cena and his little brother, and then for like a split second, it's like, what's the mom and the girlfriend up to?
Yeah.
And then we're back to the training montage. So like, did we need that? Did we need like the insert shot of like him walking into the locker room and not doing anything? It's all like back to the plot. Like, why was that there?
It's like an establishing shot of the weigh-in that goes on for like 10 seconds, and it's sandwiched between like a minute and a half of montage sequences, a training montage sequence and a competition montage sequence, and in between then there's like an establishing shot of them like parking in the school parking lot.
Or a whole bunch of teenage boys standing there in their underwear.
Yeah.
Right, which is capped off by a shot of an underage boy's bum.
Yeah.
That was a whole thing.
I believe he was old enough.
I'm sure
Yeah.
he was. I'm sure
God
he was
help
like.
me, I hope
Still,
he was.
Yes.
I mean, I know naked weigh-ins are a thing in like the UFC on occasion, but that should not be allowed for a high school wrestling team.
I'm thinking that
Coach
would
has
not
got to
go.
step in and say like, whoa, what the
Whoa,
fuck you doing?
Don't
Yeah.
stay on, man.
Yeah.
What the hell are you doing?
Yeah, that's
And
some
it's
bad
like-
advice that John Cena's given.
I would imagine naked weigh-ins in UFC is somewhat part of like an intimidation thing. Like if you're gonna
I'm sure it would be
if
an
you're gonna get
intimidating
naked and you're
factor.
gonna get on a scale, you want to have something going on that like is worth bragging
Well,
about.
for one
worth
thing, there's a-
intimidating.
Yeah.
Not
you
if
need, you need bragging rights.
Yeah, if you're like
you're
16,
obviously doing too
17,
much steroids,
It doesn't-
yeah,
well, it doesn't
that's
matter
Not
that-
going to look good.
no.
They always like carry up a towel to obscure the junk from everyone else seeing it. So it's just it's a vanity thing for the most part. It's an intimidation thing.
But then I wouldn't be intimidated at all by
Either
someone
way, it
wearing
should not be allowed to happen for a high school wrestling
No,
team.
one of those
That should not
one of-
happen for high school wrestling.
No, one of those teachers should have stepped in and said, "Put your underwear
What the
on."
fuck
It's
you
like,
doing?
In fact, all of you teenage boys, put more clothes on right now.
Like, why couldn't they put them in their gear? You know,
Because it's the weigh-in, and they have to, I guess, like subtract.
They're
their
leotards.
outfits are spandex, man. They
Yeah.
weigh less than their shorts.
That's
do.
a great point. Yeah, exactly.
Unless they wear cups. If they're wearing cups, then that might put a little extra weight on them.
Oh,
A few ounces.
okay.
Just in the
Probably.
crotchal
crotchal
region.
Crotchal region, yeah.
Yeah.
So Calvin seeks out the help of his estranged brother Mike, who had a massive falling out with the mom, and now he just like works on these oil rigs. And that's the character played by John Cena. And we are led to believe that ever since the loss of his father, his life has gone like this downward spiral where he's like living in trailer parks. He's getting into bar fights. It's alluded to that he has an alcohol problem, but like I never got that
The movie
impression.
doesn't have enough teeth to actually go there
Yeah,
and
they
show
don't
us
really-
like John Cena in an embarrassing situation with alcohol. Like we see him drinking a couple of beers.
And
It's
we
like
see him get in that fight, but it doesn't seem like he's really drunk.
Or the instigator of that fight.
Or the instigator.
he gets
of the
in
fight.
2 fights, and there are big legal ramifications for both of these fights, neither of which he starts.
Exactly.
Yeah, he is not
And
the fault in any
Can
of
we
them.
mention in the second one, he gets hit in the head with a baseball bat or something, and yet he's the one in jail.
But the movie is letting us to believe that he's like a loose cannon, like fuck up or whatever. He kind of looks like he has his shit together.
I mean, okay, he's got a crappy trailer to live in, but I've forgotten to clean my apartment once or twice.
Sure,
too.
you know, he's going. The introduction of John Cena in this movie is one of those cliche tropes that I wonder if actually happens in life, where someone is like working on like a construction thing or like piping or like whatever he's doing, and then in the middle of the workday, the supervisor comes over and says, we're gonna have to let you go. It's all like, does that happen? Do people get fired in the
doesn't happen
middle
at the
of their
end of
shift?
the day.
Yeah. You like are you
you can
so
get cut, I think, for the shift, but like I don't think you get fired in the middle.
Well, I mean, literally,
Yeah.
the guy's in the middle of welding something or
Yeah, do you wanna
grinding
let him
something.
finish
He's
that?
doing a task.
Yeah. You don't want to like pass that over to someone else. You want the person working on it to finish what they're doing.
It's just going to remain like half welded.
gotta get
Yeah, that ought to do it.
this part of the building isn't going. No, we gotta stay on schedule. Let that guy go. Well, there'll be no orphanage now.
Or they just have a finished orphanage with like one metal sheet flapping away in the wind.
It's just a wall that falls.
It's a wall. It's a load bearing. Yeah. So John Cena's a fuck up.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah.
And
we're led to believe.
yes,
Yeah.
and Calvin wants to seek him out. So he borrows his friend Luli's moped thing to go like 2 towns over to
At 49 kilometers.
at 49
an hour.
kilometers.
I liked this character. This character
Luli's-
was given some weird energy, and I was there for it.
Yeah. She
Yeah.
had the most obscure Manic Pixie Dream Girl concept
Oh, yeah.
I have ever seen in a film.
She was quirky with a capital Q, and you know what? I liked it a lot.
That actress, Madeline Martin, I believe her name is Madeline Martin. I first saw her in Californication.
Yeah,
when
me too.
she's
She's great in that.
quite older than she is playing in this film. And then I saw her in Hemlock Grove.
Oh, okay.
And I understand she's a huge theater actress in New York. She's quirky and she's interesting and she does neat things with her voice when she's working.
Yes.
And her eyes.
And her eyes and she's unusual. She's not typical of a Hollywood actor.
Yeah, but
Or
it's
a Hollywood
believable
actress.
too.
She's
But
a nice little
believable.
spice that has been added to this movie, and yeah, I appreciate it because it's on paper it's a little bit of a nothing character, but she's really elevated it, and you come away remembering that character and remember the choices that actor made.
Well, it's also a borderline uncomfortable character because
Yes,
when
there's some issues with this character.
when we
yes.
meet her, she's a teenage girl and she recently developed breasts, and she earns some money by flashing her boobs to any boy who pays her like $5 to allow to be flashed. And she dresses provocatively because she believes that's what the boys want. But she's also weirdly inviting that herself because she has this enormous unrequited crush on Calvin. And
They've been friends for a while.
They've been friends
yeah,
for a
childhood
while.
friends.
The childhood friend kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
knowing each other
Yeah.
forever.
but he's not really interested in like pursuing that any further, and she's hell-bent on getting that Calvin dick.
Yeah, she's thirsty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Calvin needs to somewhat up his friend quota because he's got like this one friend, then he has like that other friend.
I don't really get to know much.
Yeah, I think his name is Donald. Someone needs to check in on Donald. Donald look because he's obviously like a supporting character in someone else's movie, but every time the camera's on him, he looks miserable. Like this poor guy. Like at the end of the movie has him setting up like this elaborate like confetti cannon, an act that should by its virtue be a joyous thing to do. And
And
poor
he looks just
poor
miserable the
Donald
whole
doesn't
time
want to
he's
be
pulling
there.
it off.
Someone's got to look in on Donald. I don't think he's having a good time.
He sits in on like Calvin's like wrestling matches, and he's just sitting there like
He's so morose.
He's stone-faced. He doesn't cheer when his friend wins. He's not shocked when his friend loses. He's just he's emotionless.
You
Yeah.
get the feeling that maybe he was the second choice for Calvin, and then they gave him this part, and he's really still quite sad about it.
It's possible.
If he feels like an emotion like sadness at all.
I don't know. I mean, like the actor they chose for Calvin, obviously we see him, he's like fully nerded up. And then over the course of the movie, he does the thing where like the nerd turns into the jock and you can't quite believe the same
He took off
actor
his
is.
glasses.
He took off his glasses
Right
and he
there.
changed
That's
his
his
hair.
cousin.
And
He
so
changed
now
his
he's a
hair.
completely different person.
Yeah.
The actor who plays Donald, I don't know necessarily if he could necessarily make that transformation, but who knows? You know, with enough money.
I looked at him and I saw unhappy actor.
Yes.
Like doesn't really want to be there. And the director, for whatever reason, didn't say, kid.
Kid, most of your scenes are with Patricia Clarkson. Like most people would like kill for this type of
yeah.
like supporting role, even though you have maybe 10 lines. But yeah.
And you get to blow shit up.
There you go.
You know, like, because he gets that.
For
he gets
reasons. We'll get to that.
For reasons. You get that fun part. Like,
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you gotta realize you just want to do the fun thing.
Yeah, talking about like bringing, you know, like adding a little bit of mustard to characters who on paper don't necessarily have much to do anything like that. The nerdy best friend, that's a great role. You want that role. You can make a meal out of that. But this actor, who knows what was going on with him, but yeah, he just very much plays what's on paper. And
Yeah, and he
it's
doesn't.
all like,
and
are
he
we
doesn't
done?
push
Good,
it.
I gotta go.
Yeah,
I
and he
gotta get out of here.
disappears for most of the movie too.
Again, that could have been a character they could have made some more out of. But
He could have his own C
they already
storyline.
had.
This movie does have a
way
lot of
too many
characters.
contributing
Yeah.
factors going on. Like again, we have the 3-person triumvirate of leaders and wise men
Yes.
We have the girl on the side. We have the slightly overbearing mother. Then we add in the best friend. I mean, there's a lot of action going on around this poor guy.
There's enough
And
characters
we've still
here
got-
for a series of
really
TV show.
expand
Yeah.
to a C storyline for the best friend.
Yeah. Well, when they turn Legendary into a TV show for WWE Network, they'll expand these episodes. Donald will get his own very special episode.
And he'll probably be played by The Miz.
So Calvin gets Cena out of his legal troubles in exchange for I want you to train me in wrestling. I want to follow in that. Cena agrees to do that.
Now I know Calvin wasn't under oath, but he was telling a lot of lies in like a legal case, because he comes in as all like, my brother is like my trainer, like I'm always with them.
He's my replacement dad.
Yeah, which is, he's like, it's very funny because
he wasn't on the witness list. He just sort of like storms his way into the courthourse. Like,
he's all like, excuse me, Your Honor, I have something to say. And I was just waiting for the judge just go like, well, it's highly irregular, but I'll allow it. Because we are in a movie.
Can we like verify that you actually are like blood relatives to this guy?
Can we see some ID, maybe? Yeah.
Your Honors, we have a surprise witness here. So, Cena, I guess, rents out this, like, abandoned warehouse and sets up a wrestling mat in there. Because it's certainly not a wrestling gym, because they're the only two people that ever fucking use it. And he trains him in the art of wrestling.
Collegiate wrestling.
Exactly.
Which I had to look up the rules for.
Yeah, there was a lot of me...
Make a lot of sense.
Yeah, there's a lot of me watching this, and then, like, because there's lots of wrestling footage in this movie. And it's a lot of me just like not understanding the rules of what's going on. Is all like a move would happen. I'll be like, is that good? Did I want that to happen?
Is that illegal? Like, no, they seem to just be resetting. Okay, I guess that was allowed.
Because from the untrained eye, obviously wrestling is super complicated, and there's lots of rules nuance to it as well too. But to the untrained eye, it does just look like two people holding each other very tight and getting into all types of...
it looks like the kind of video you used to have to go through a curtain in the back of the building.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's how it took me a while to take UFC seriously, because every time you flip through it on a television, it's just all like, oh, that's gay porn. That's gay porn that I'm looking at right now. Just to be clear, I'm into it, but like I don't know why. It's great that they're playing this on SportsCenter, but like that's two men in love is what that is.
The thing is, it's when you're raised with wrestling being, WWE, or where I grew up, it was Stampede Wrestling, which is where Stu Hart and Bret Hart and
the Hart family,
the Hart family, and then you watch collegiate wrestling, which is different than Greco-Roman wrestling and different than Olympic wrestling. Thank you, Wikipedia.
All right.
You are now the expert on this
bring in the
subject.
facts. You're the wrestling. Yeah, you're a wrestling expert.
It doesn't look like what you think it is. Like, the whole point isn't to pin the guy to the mat for 3 seconds. That's not even a rule in collegiate wrestling. It's all about basically controlling your opponent, which is why you can wrap a guy up and get points for it. But again, it does look an awful lot like the precursor to a scene that you don't necessarily want to watch on TV with your mother in the room.
I mean, depending on your relationship with your mother.
Some moms will go for it. Why not? I wouldn't want my mother to watch
Patricia Clarkson would be into it.
She'd be into it.
She's a very hands-off kind of mom. So, yeah.
Speaking of Patricia Clarkson, so now that Calvin is starting to have like more success in wrestling, she starts warming up to him being in wrestling. She's like, well, I wish you were playing golf, but you seem to be enjoying it, and you seem to be doing quite well at it, so I weirdly support you. But here's where like a lot of the drama starts trickling through, because she doesn't know that he's hanging out with his estranged brother.
Yes.
And so
they've spoken maybe like twice over the course of 10 years that they mention. Yeah.
So she gets a little suspicious of like, hey, so I know your practice ends at like 5, but you're never home until like 8 o'clock. What's going on there?
Suspicious, but not suspicious enough to ask any follow-up questions.
Oh, there's a part where she finds Luli and gives her like a half-baked like interrogations, like, oh, so where's my son? Like, I don't know. Oh yeah, where's your scooter? Okay, he has it. All right, cool, thank you. And then no follow-up questions.
And then that scene's over, and then we're moving on to something else. Yeah,
she says, you're not a very good liar, but doesn't bother to question.
But I'm not. Yes, I'm not going to follow up on that. We're going to immediately move on. Yes,
and she never like Luli never even goes to Calvin and says like, hey, your mom's snooping around asking questions. You better be careful. Nah, nothing like that.
To cut away to a scene of them pulling into a parking lot first.
Yes. So Mike and Calvin have a series of training montages, and then one night when they're leaving the gym or whatnot, Calvin says a line of dialogue that I had had to rewind.
Yeah.
Because we had to hear this again, because it's maybe like the most unbelievable line of dialogue that happens in this movie.
Yeah, so Calvin's Mike's helping Calvin, so now Calvin's got to help Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So he gets Mike a job.
Hey, did you get a job yet?
No.
I got you one. Through my geology class, know some guys at Sooner Pipe Works. They can get you out the rigs, put you in a truck, servicing the online wells.
He got him a job working on some sort of...
working like the trucks at a rig.
Yeah.
And he pulled some strings through his high school geology class.
How on
to
earth
get
does
him
a high school student manage to get a grown adult like a paying
Nobody's
job?
ever met.
Yeah. What connections does he have? What connections could he put through his geology
In a different
class?
city.
Yeah.
In a different
Yeah.
city.
It's not
Yeah.
like he's like, oh, I talked to the guy that runs, Jake's junkyard, and
Yeah.
you're going to drive for him because everybody knows who you are. No, this is over in that other city in the other part of Oklahoma that you can apparently get to on a scooter in less than 3 hours.
Yeah. There's no possible way that a high school student who I don't even think he was a senior, but no, there's no way that he could do that. But that could easily be explained away if there was a scene that showed how he was able to do that.
Yeah, well, like they could have just had a 2-second scene where he's talking to a teacher or his friend's dad
Sure.
or his friend. Maybe, hey, the nerdy best friend's dad owns this company.
The only adults he ever talks to are his mother, John Cena, and Danny Glover.
Yeah. That is what you're right, Trey. That is one of those scenes where when he announces, "Oh, I got you a job," it's all like, "No, I need to see how that happened. I need to see A to B to C, because you just saying you, like a 16-year-old boy, apparently pulled enough strings to get your brother hired on like a rigging job is all like, no, you need to explain to the audience how that happened, because I don't know."
Maybe just change the scene to, hey, I was talking to so-and-so. They're looking for a driver. Why don't you go see them?
Right.
And then later on, we see he's got the job, and hey, that solves the problem.
These two towns are a lot more connected than I think we give him credit for, because there's another scene where the bully pulls up in like his red sports car, which of course every bully has in every movie.
Yeah.
And he's all like, "Hey,
It's the douche-mobile.
yeah, your wrestler brother got arrested in a bar," and he throws like a newspaper at him, but it's all like, "So you were just reading an out-of-town newspaper." And you just happen to notice this name. It's all like, seems unlikely.
He checks the police blotter from
Yeah.
like other towns over.
You, another 16-year-old high school student. Yeah, seems unlikely. Like that's the thing that you would do.
He's like one of those like high roller stockbrokers that has to check like every different like financial paper every day. Like, oh, good, I have like the
Yeah,
like,
I'm
I have
imagining
the
this
Wall Street Journal.
This high school bully is just reading the newspaper over coffee. He's got little glasses on. It's just all like, what's the...
Maybe you get the feeling like the two towns are like Minneapolis, St. Paul. Like they're kind of like connected by
sister
a
cities.
bridge.
Okay.
Or,
Yeah.
or-
San
well, I don't know
Francisco,
if that's
Oakland. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not okay. To be honest, I don't know if Minneapolis and St. Paul are actually like that, but like that's the thought that goes through my head. Like they're maybe like two sides of the same river.
I know it's for the purposes of the story, but if John Cena wanted to get away from his family, he didn't go far enough.
No,
He kind of went like he went to
It's
like
like-
Burnaby, like he didn't go very far at all.
I don't
Yeah.
want to talk to you anymore, so I'm moving 2 blocks away.
Yeah.
So we flash forward a couple of months later, and it's the high school dance. I know I'm kind of jumping ahead, but like truly, what really happens like in these in these-
Training a couple of matches.
Yeah.
he doesn't win everything, which I actually like.
Yeah.
I like
It's
that he
important to
didn't
show
just,
that in sports movies, I think.
That he just didn't win straight through as soon as his brother started training.
Right. And that was the overall theme of the movie that's revealed near the end, that this is ultimately a movie that is about a family that has to come to terms with the concept of losing and how to pick yourself up and continue to go on from there.
A family that's lost their father and had an estranged family member. This family needs to be like dragged through the mud a little bit more.
They need to lose a little bit more.
Yeah.
If anything, they're winning too much.
Oh, you had some success with the high school wrestling team? Not so fast, Chetley family.
So the girlfriend is kind of sexually assaulted here.
Yeah.
Or like
essentially.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because the bully comes over and tries to get a look at her
undoes her
boobs and
dress.
unzips the back of her dress and Cal gets into a fight with them, and there are zero repercussions for
No
this.
ramifications
No, the
whatsoever.
bully should have been escorted from the school. He probably should have been suspended
And
for
arrested.
for a little while. Yeah. Because you can't do that. But
Well, this was also, let's point this out, this was a pre-Me Too movement movie.
right. This is almost like a pre-smartphone movie because like
Well,
we
they were
only
using flip phones.
we see one cell phone in this movie and it's a flip
Oh yeah,
phone.
you asked me during that
Is this
high
a
school
period
dancing.
piece?
Yeah, because like this is weirdly looking like something from like the 60s or 70s, and like come to think of it, I haven't seen a single cell phone in this universe yet.
And just like whoever the band for the dances or whatever was very Enchantment Under the Sea-esque. So I don't really know.
Incredibly talented performers for a bunch of high school students, though. Like my theory was that it was a high school band.
I'll be honest. I didn't really clock what they were doing.
I don't know, but
The nerdy front man who was like rocking a fiddle, and he's like, "All right, everybody, we're really gonna kick it up for you right now," and like, "Oh, boo! Get off the stage, Warren."
Yeah, he starts singing one of those songs. It has like an opening where it's like, okay, like this is just specific enough that I actually need to hear more of this song because the way you're doing it is just like a really odd sort of like non sequitur or whatever. I don't even remember what he's saying, but
Thank you. We're going to pick it up a little bit for you guys. Cross the Himalayas on a wagon train. The chariot of Krishna flew me down to my
the one thing about the dance pre the sexual assault that takes place is the nerdy junior high school slow dancing.
yes,
Doing.
you can see
that takes me
Donald in
back.
the background doing like the
Literally,
full
like,
leaving just enough room for Jesus.
You know, and
That takes me back.
And then the couple does the same thing, and I'm like, I'm sorry, these kids are 16 years old.
Yeah, they'd be getting
When
the
I was-
hormones
when I-
would be.
when I was in high school, which was well before 2010, we danced closer than that.
Yeah, kids these days, they're grinding, they're doing the
They're twerking.
twerking. Thank you. Oh
they're
my
doing
God, I
the-
showed my
the-
age because I
the-
couldn't remember the name of the
TikTok
twerking.
dances now.
Yeah.
Yeah, the floss and everything.
The flossing.
The floss.
That's what high school dances are now.
these-
It's basically Fortnite.
It's basically
And they're not even dancing; they're just playing Fortnite. Yeah, but no, the teachers are walking around. They're all like, "Make sure you leave enough room in between you for JC." And I don't mean Jesus; I mean the penguin character from Surf's Up 2 Wave Mania. Leave just enough room for that.
That was a good callback.
Yeah,
Thank
that's a great callback.
you.
Not to sidetrack from the plot, because I know like my thing is like keeping us on track here. But can we talk about the music super briefly?
It was very Coldplay-esque.
Very Coldplay, like not even just in the dancing, but like throughout the movie, you hear like Low Rent Stained, you hear Low Rent U2.
It reminded me of the soundtrack to what was that movie we watched? Bail Enforcers.
Oh god.
Where just like a scene, but like that's like an action movie where
Borrow
people.
your entire DVD collection.
Heck, man,
Oh, good
we
luck.
got a big catalog. Most of these movies we do not own.
Yeah.
Some of these movies we do own and questionable.
And most of them are free on YouTube.
Yeah.
So.
But like this isn't a movie where like a lot of action happens. Like training montages will happen and like the music will be like da 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 da. It's all like that's a little bit extreme for what's happening here. Yeah.
They'll have
doesn't-
like scenes where the weigh-in is set to like some song that has lyrics, but because like these scenes are over in like 10 seconds,
You hear the first.
you hear like the
half
first
a
verse.
sentence.
It's like YouTube's old rule about like if you play more than 10 seconds of a song, you have to
have to
pay
pay for it.
royalties. Yeah. So this is WWE Studios' clever way around that.
even though like I imagine WWE must have like an entire catalog of music.
They do have like a not a recording label, but they do have like
They have
music.
their own studio. They have their own musicians. That all the entrance themes are done by pretty much. I think it's like the same three guys.
Fucking John Cena, like his thing before was he was a white rapper. And he would rap a lot of his songs.
That's right. John Cena has an album.
Yeah.
This movie should have been filled with John Cena rap songs.
Should have.
Need to find John Cena rap song.
If it's not on Spotify, I'll look it up. I'll look it up on Spotify
He has
right
one.
now. to
He has
see if-
one track called "Bad Bad Man," and the music video is just like a parody of the A-Team. It's good shit.
See, he actually was really good at that.
Mm-hmm.
He could riff rap like
Good riff.
I don't know what do you call it.
Freestyle?
Freestyle.
Yeah.
Yes. Again, I'm a 50-year-old white guy.
Mm-hmm.
What do I do?
I like riff rapping. I like that. I think we should bring that term back. Yeah. Yes.
Rap, riff, riff.
Freestyle, like nobody's business.
Yeah. So through training with Calvin, Mike's life he's been on the straight and narrow. Like he hasn't had a drink in, let's presume, like a couple of months. And just for shits and giggles, he goes to hang out at his favorite bar.
John Cena is on Spotify, by the way.
Oh, lovely. Can't wait. And so he
He has a song called Basic Thugonomics.
Thugonomics. Basic
Thugonomics,
Thugonomics.
yeah.
Theme tune.
So he goes to a bar, he orders himself a beer, but second guesses himself and puts it back and decides, I'm not going to drink tonight, and decides to walk out of the bar. That's where he's assaulted by the same guy who fought him the first time, and
his two buddies.
And his two buddies, and John Cena throws a guy through a window or something, so he gets straight up arrested for this. And so he uses one phone call to call Patricia Clarkson, and that's when she clues in that Calvin has been spending time with his brother, much to her dismay.
And she goes to see him in jail, and he gets like hardcore arrested to jail. Like we see him like in the prison orange, and he's like behind bars, and it's very cliche. And it's like, I get that he was on probation. I get that he had had his 3 strikes, and things weren't going up to them. And eventually Patricia Clarkson comes in and says, yeah, the guy I went on a date with for like 20 minutes or whatever talked to the waitress, and she verified your story, and they're gonna let you out of here because we have like multiple witnesses that say that you didn't do anything, you didn't drink anything. It's all like, but how did we get to this point? Like, weren't there enough people to like back up his story at the time? Because he's a huge dude. You would notice a dude come into a bar, order a beer, not drink the beer, leave, and then immediately get attacked by 3 bigger dudes.
And
like,
at
that's
the very end
not
of that sequence when he busts the guy through the front door window.
That's maybe the worst thing he does.
Is shown standing there looking at him.
And he's
like,
also...
he does do property damage, but he was also defending himself. So
and
you know, what are you
going
gonna do?
The head with a baseball bat.
Yeah.
So like, how come he's the one that gets arrested? That just doesn't make sense.
You know, it's implied that he's like somewhat of a minor celebrity because he was like the reigning high school wrestling champion in this small town, and he was a huge fucking deal. Yeah. Anyway, so people are going to notice him. I want to bring up that in the moments where Patricia Clarkson is ringing out Calvin for spending time with his estranged brother, she goes through the backstory of like how his father ended up dying. And I guess he was so driven and so gung-ho at pushing Mike to be the champion at wrestling that against everyone's best wishes, they went out during a blizzard or a snowstorm to go scout out an opponent at some other school, and they hit some black ice, and he was thrown from the car, dead on impact of everything, and Mike always blamed himself for the death. And
if you're a parent in a movie and you're going to go driving and it's anything other than clear skies, do not go in that car because you will not make it back. Yeah. Anytime someone goes rain driving, it's not going to end well.
Bad idea.
Yeah.
But there's a moment where she says, "Oh, and Mike always blamed himself for the death of his father," and Calvin asked her point blank, "Did you ever tell him that it wasn't his fault?" And Patricia Clarkson like has this look on her face like,
"Oh yeah,
fuck!"
That would have been a great idea.
It's funny
Although
too
she
because
has just gone in. She was so wrapped up in her own grief, not even aware she was as devastated as she was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
I mean, she does say
she was pretty effed up at that time.
Yeah, she does say that a thing that she regrets is like at a time she did kind of blame Mike for her husband's death, which is in a tremendously nuanced emotion to pop up in a WWE movie.
Mm-hmm. You know, and again, when Cal asks her that question, I don't recall if she actually says it or it's just this look she gives that says, yeah.
It's another weird edit because it's yet another very short scene where Cal asks her that question. Patricia Clarkson kind of considers it for a second, and then we cut to some other nonsense. And it's like it does, the way that it's edited, it is very funny because like, yeah, as we were watching it, Jameson, you did like the thing was all like, damn it, and then it got to like the next thing because that's kind of how it feels like it flows while you're watching it. Yeah. But it's sort of unironically funny the way that it's sort of put together like that. Yeah, but Christ, what happens? So Mike gets out of jail.
Calvin has like his big, it's not even like a regional champion, it's just another wrestling match.
District championship.
District champion, sure, yeah. So he goes there, and like all our characters come together for this. Danny Glover shows up to watch him wrestle.
Cal's about to quit because he sees that his opponent is like obviously
really
tougher than him, and he's about to quit, and he runs into Danny Glover, who's just there to watch the thing. At this point in time, we don't know that he has any sort of like connection to Cal or the family or anything. He's just like a random guy, and we just cut to shots of Danny Glover watching the wrestling match. And I really wanted someone in the audience next to him to be all like, "So is that your son or your grandson?" He's all like, "No, I'm just here to support my friend. a 15-year-old white boy that I barely know. And it's like,
watching by the pond.
all right, sir.
He stocks the lake full of fish for me.
I'm just
and
gonna
sometimes he asks me questions, and I give him wistful advice.
I'm just gonna go talk to the security guard for no real reason. You just
gonna go over
continue
here
to
and call 911.
sit. Yeah.
I love like the interactions between Calvin and Danny Glover in this movie. Like one of the things he asks him about, like when at the pond, is just like the most vague piece of shit. Like, you ever want to get something or go somewhere or be with someone?
Share some of those heavy thoughts you're carrying?
Yeah, I guess so. Have you ever wanted something, you know, or someone, or want to get someplace, but just didn't know how?
Yeah?
Gee, thanks, wise black man.
Thank you, wise old man.
I didn't used to be a magical black man. I used to just be like a regular black man.
I used to be a young black man.
And then I got older, and I got this gray in my hair, and I woke up one day, and I always knew the right thing to say at the right time.
I became Ganon from Star Trek.
Why
Remember
was
Star
his
Trek?
name Red?
Was it Red?
His name was Red.
His name was Red.
Yeah.
Okay.
The reason that sticks in my brain is that was my grandfather's nickname,
Okay.
because my grandfather was a redhead. So his actual.
I don't know if this has anything to do with it. It's also the name of the character Morgan Freeman plays in Shawshank Redemption.
Oh,
so I don't
bloody
know if that has anything to do with it. But
Oh, God. Oh, actually, it was through Red that Calvin like took the initiative to go see his brother, because he's losing like those initial wrestling matches, and he says like, "Oh man, I want to wrestle so bad, Red." And he says, and Red asks him, "Have you ever wrestled before?" And he said, "No." Well, there's your problem.
I want to wrestle.
Wrestle. What's the holdup?
I don't think I can compete.
You ever wrestled before?
No, never.
That's your problem.
Maybe you should be the coach.
I mean, maybe he
foreshadowing.
should. As we find out,
Foreshadowing.
maybe he fucking should.
Yeah. Well, like when we were brainstorming like who this guy is, I initially thought that maybe he was the other driver in the car accident that killed his dad. But then like, oh no, he just hit some ice and he died through like by a single car accident.
Yeah.
And I thought like maybe that was his connection with Calvin. But no, it turns out he was the.
Are we revealing it here?
No,
So let's
no,
just do it.
no,
We'll
is this
just
the point
do
we're
it
doing
here.
Okay. Well, no, there's a couple of things that happened before this.
Okay,
All right,
let's-
fine.
So Mike shows up at the WrestleFest, and he gets a gift from Luli. Well, because she's not going to go to the locker room
Yeah.
to give it as much as she would like to go to that locker room.
Very funny scene
She's
setting
been
this
making
up.
so many jokes about his butt the entire.
Oh, about his
the
hiney?
entire movie.
Very funny scene where this sets this up, where she has a big purple box that she hands to John Cena while making huge fuck me eyes directly at John Cena.
And says something along the lines of, "Cal's told me a lot about you, but you're so much better looking in
Yeah,
person."
and then she like exits the frame, but like she like, kind of comes
I mean,
back
I also
in.
love the fact that
Yeah.
he's like twice her height.
Yeah.
Well, he's twice everyone's height. He's John Cena.
He's
He's-
John Cena.
Everyone is
6'4".
twice this girl's
Yeah.
height.
And she looks about 3 foot nothing.
Yeah.
Yes, she's a very petite.
Did
little
anybody
girl,
else
yes.
notice the lid of the box popped open when she handed it to John
No.
Cena? I thought it was a puppy.
Just gives him a pre-match puppy.
I was like, okay, I don't know what this is about.
This is a
Why
huge
would she give her a
responsibility,
puppy?
and this is not a great time to give me this.
Well, like she's crushing hard on this guy, so I imagine this is like one of those gifts that are just a little like over the line. But what she ends up giving him is a robe that's adorned in skulls, because
And
flames because this is a WWE movie, and this is how wrestling really ought to be.
It looks very much like a piece of clothing that No Fear would make.
Yeah.
It looked like those skulls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It
Yeah.
does. Well, I think they actually probably were. Like, they
Right.
found a
Yeah.
bathrobe made by No Fear and added the flame.
Yeah. So she gives him
Fabric to it.
like a wrestler robe. But she also throws in a pump for that thing that we saw him do over an hour
catfish
ago
pump.
Yeah.
and has never been brought up again.
This is a gift for you and Danny Glover.
Yeah.
To be fair, no, she does ask him about it, I think, in the 3rd or 4th scene of the movie.
Okay, fair enough.
But that's the only other time it's referred to.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that pump working? No, it's not.
Sure.
It's the MacGuffin pump.
It's the MacGuffin pump.
The pumpin'.
Um,
And then this is the kind of the funny part of this movie that is about it is a movie about like actual wrestling, about collegiate wrestling, not professional wrestling, but this is like the one moment where WWE aesthetics sort of bleed in because his
The collegiate
friends,
wrestling.
even though we have not had time to see them set up like a ring entrance for Calvin
With pyro.
with big flames and wrestler music and
Sparks
confetti cannons. And the other important thing to remember is that this is not their school.
Yeah.
They are a visiting team.
Yeah.
So how did they have time to set this up? Who let them set this up?
Yeah, the other official.
What the heck was the like? Would not somebody look at this and go, "You're stringing a bunch of canisters of pyrotechnics together.
Yeah.
You've got this like." Looks like it could set off a nuclear bomb control panel in your hands.
Yeah.
This is not an arena. This is a high school gymnasium. This is going to
we
set
are
up.
not zoned for this.
This is going to set up the sprinklers and
They
everything.
even
And
make the fire marshal joke.
Yeah. And then,
yeah, the guy comes out like he should have come out to like Real American or something,
Yeah.
shit like that.
and he's got like this big flashy entrance, and not to jump to the end of the movie, but he doesn't win the match.
Not
So-
at all. Like, well,
So
it's a
it's
close
very
game, but
it's
he
close.
doesn't
It's
win.
no, it's very close.
Every sports movie since about 1977 can generally be compared to Rocky.
Of
Of
course,
course, yeah.
yeah.
Rocky is one of the best sports films ever made. I'm not talking any of the sequels, though they were good too in their own ways.
Some of those sequels are great.
But the original one that won the Oscars, made Sly Stallone a family name, he doesn't win.
Sly and the Family Stone.
Yeah,
name?
I was thinking that too.
Sly Stallone. Rocky doesn't win.
Yeah.
No, he draws.
And that's the point.
And that's the point.
Yeah.
He
Point is
gets
that he
to the
competed.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He competed, and that's what this suddenly reminded me of.
Yeah,
I was
well, this
literally
mo-
just thinking ahead of time. Was like I was comparing Karate Kid in my head. I was comparing Rocky in my head, and I was like, but he's going to win because it's a WWE film. So the kid's got to win. I mean, you got to give him that, right?
I really like that he doesn't win.
But
I think
he
it's one of this movie's strong points is that he doesn't win the match, and the movie does sort of like rip off the ending of Rocky. It's not the point that he won. The point is that he did the one wrestling move that we saw him practice earlier, and he pulled that off. But more importantly, he went the distance. That was
Yeah,
the
he
important
the
part.
distance.
It's
And
a
He didn't give up.
And of course, they had to throw in the reverse cradle. Like you knew the moment you heard the term that was going to come
and John
into play.
Cena taught him and said like, no, it's a risky move, but he's going to pull it off.
It's the
in
crane kick of this movie.
Yeah.
It's the crane kick.
Yeah.
But no, this subverted expectations in another way. I mean, there's a scene where before John Cena reunites with his little brother, he's like boxing in the front yard, and his girlfriend says, "Oh, by the way, your brother called or something, and I don't know what it's about."
This
but
was
I'm
me trying to
leaving
be
you."
smarter than the movie, but I
And you're like,
failed.
"Oh, I bet this movie's going to end with him giving a single punch to that box or to that punching bag," and it didn't.
No, it didn't. No, it cut before that because it's like,
Because you can't judge a book by its cover.
someone's
Cass.
punching a punching bag. Someone comes in, gives that person like the bad news, and then he looks over the punching bag, and then he punches the bag, and then the scene cuts. Now it doesn't go that far. Although I would bet dollars to donuts that scene was filmed, and they just didn't go with it. That was
you know
that was a
what?
It was
take.
one of those.
That was an
another-
option.
It's
that he gave
another
them.
example
Yeah.
of those early cuts that this movie does.
Did
So
we
they're
talk
trimming
about
every
the
last
reveal,
second
the Danny
they can.
Glover reveal? I
No,
thought
but that was
haven't
about
got
the
to that.
time.
that was
That's
about the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's revealed that Danny Glover was the coach of his dad.
Yes. And we see him reading like a eulogy in the paper
eulogy that-
earlier, and we find out that his like full name is like
Henry
something or other,
Henry
and
Norman or
Red
whatever.
is his nickname or whatever. Because John, there's a moment where John Cena and Danny Glover lock eyes,
nod head thing.
nod head, and he's all like, "You know him?" It's all like, "Yeah, that's Dad's coach." And then Danny Glover excuses himself and walks out
And wanders into the street.
and he starts narrating it again. And I'm thinking, is all like,
Sometimes it's not all about winning.
and I'm just thinking about like, is he thinking that right now? Is that like his inner monologue? Does he think in narration? It's part of my curse. I can't stop thinking in narration.
On to the next town.
I wake up
It's
and-
the kind of place.
I wake up in the morning just all like, Red went to the toilet and sat there for about 20 minutes and knew he shouldn't have had that quesadilla. Anyway, what a burden.
I wonder if his prostate was the size of a grapefruit.
I just love the fact that like Danny Glover is famously known for saying a line of dialogue where he is too old for this shit in a movie that came out in 1987.
Yeah.
And he
was like 35.
And he has continued to do a variety of movies where the shit he is doing he is too old for.
Yeah.
He's great. I love him.
Yeah.
I love him in this movie. He's great. We're done, right? We're at the.
I got one thing I just.
Oh yeah,
please.
we do this. Yeah.
This will kind of buttonhole it.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
At the very end of the movie, they do what makes it seem like, oh, this is based on a true story, where they tell about how Cal won. Cal won like 48 of the next matches he fought in his senior year. Something to do with Mike getting his life together. And the pump Luli gave him still works.
Hey,
Yeah.
I'm so glad that they tied that up.
I needed to know that.
Yeah.
Thank I can sleep at night now.
We're gonna have a legendary two.
I watched that. And I'm like, I turn it off. I can go to sleep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna be. Yeah, I'm not gonna
I'm
be
not
up
gonna
at
be
night.
worrying about that pump.
We're gonna have a very catfish focused sequel spinoff to that's just about
Legendary catfish.
legendary catfish. Why was this movie called Legendary? Because it's like the legend of his family.
father?
I don't know. He doesn't really do anything legendarily.
No,
He joins a high
loses.
school wrestling team, and he's kind of okay at
And he's
it.
okay at it.
Yeah.
He's okay.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't do badly.
Yeah.
He had a bit of an uptick eventually.
I don't
but-
know.
He
I guess
does
they
like
needed to-
26 and 8 or something.
Yeah.
He did okay for a season. Not bad for a first try.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can only get better from here. Yeah. And I don't know. I guess they needed to call the movie something.
One thing I wanted to bring up was that Patricia Clarkson has a. She's concerned about Luli, a little more concerned about her well-being than her son's well-being. Or I guess
Lily
like
has no mother.
Lily has no parents.
Yeah.
We never check in on them.
We have to find- and she's got 4 brothers. I remember I heard that. No mention of a father and I believe they do mention her mother's gone.
yeah, and she has a means of transportation, and Calvin doesn't. It's like she has that little fun little scooter.
That was her inheritance from her mom.
So Calvin drops the
my guess.
so what happens? Calvin is like he's running up and down the staircase at the school just to like get some extra training in. Luli sees him. I keep wanting to say Lilu like Lilu Dallas. Luli sees him and says like, "Ooh, nice hiney." To which Calvin replies, "Speaking of hiney, my mom wants to see you."
Nice hiney.
Thank you. Speaking of heinies, my mom wants you to stop by.
Your mom wants to see my hiney?
She didn't say.
What?
I don't know if I
was
thought.
a line.
Cena
I don't know if I thought that one through.
Yeah. And then there's like the whole thing about like, hey, like don't you gotta keep those boys guessing. Don't be wearing.
Don't be chasing.
Don't be chasing. Be chased. All that mother-daughter.
She
shit.
doesn't even dress that like
Provocatively.
provocatively. She's
God,
wearing. I mean, for
2010.
I think
in
maybe
high
for
school,
2010
she was
yeah.
dressed quite.
Fine. Like,
She funky.
Yeah.
Very, the modern version.
I would say
of
quirky.
Molly Ringwald in Pretty in Pink.
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Or like
But-
yellow tutus with her tights and everything.
Yeah,
Her-
but like she
their
didn't
jean jacket.
wear the most revealing thing she wore was the fact that she wore a strapless dress to the prom.
I think she has like a midriff at one point, but still like fairly chaste for how a lot of
For a
teenagers dress
16-year-old
these
girl,
days. Yeah.
very chaste.
Yeah.
Funky, unusual.
I
not
do wonder
slutty.
if we next year if we explore a little bit more about the back catalog of WWE, I do see like a little bit of WWE films. I do see like a little bit of a crossover between wrestling movies and movies with a somewhat religious bent to it. Like there's a couple of movies where they kind of reference God, and like I wonder if those are like kind of low key some of like the morals that like WWE is trying to impart.
I think it's
like
more
Vince
like-
Man,
I mean-
Vince Man's like a conservative, right?
He's a
so
very
it,
conservative guy,
yeah.
but I mean also
Not saying those two are
This may have
necessarily
been
tied, but
the idea
you know,
was to do a John Cena family-friendly movie.
And John Cena being like a very family-friendly face of the company kind of guy.
And I mean, by that point, I think he had done The Marine.
yes.
Yeah. So
Okay.
like they
I don't know how violent those movies are, but they might be PG-13. I don't know.
probably PG-13 violent.
Who's to say? Someone who's seen the movie.
Yeah, I
Can
haven't
say.
seen the movie.
No.
I've seen Cena
Why-
Evil.
why would you want
and
to?
Cena Evil 2, and they got.
Wow, why did you watch those?
I
I know the Soska sisters did the second one, so that's kind of worth checking out.
Why
for
I
that.
wanted to check it out
Right.
because I met those two.
Very cool.
They're,
Very cool
they're Very
filmmakers.
cool,
Yeah.
cool women. I met them before they were anybody.
Cool.
Not that they remember, nor have I had the chance to work with.
But you met 'em.
either of them.
Well,
But
they're
I'd like
listening,
to.
so
Yeah, I'm sure
they're listening to this. Yeah.
And I wanted to see what they did with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd seen Cena Evil on, I don't know, HBO or Crave or whatever super channel.
Right.
I'd seen it on a couple years before.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get a kick out of bad slasher films.
Sure.
oh yeah, who doesn't?
And yeah, it was a bad slasher film
Yeah.
with a Soska bent to it, which they have their own style.
Right on.
Super briefly, while we're talking about wrestling, I would be remiss if we had an opportunity to talk about this on the Batista one, but we didn't. I'm going to take this quick opportunity to talk about it on John Cena because it involves them both. Both of those men were involved in one of the all-time greatest botches in wrestling history. It was during the Royal Rumble, where Batista was meant to throw John Cena over the ropes, but through some weird cockamamie bit of circumstances, they both went over the ropes together and landed on the ground at the exact same time.
So close they couldn't tell the difference.
Yeah. So Batista was meant to win, but even the ref said there's no way we can justify this to the cameras or anything.
So they did a start over, wasn't it?
No, what they did was they did this minute and a half of improvising where they were arguing over who actually won. Meanwhile, the people behind the scenes are on the phone saying we need a program director. None of them could be found because this was at the end of the match, so they probably went home or were doing something else. So who storms?
Vince McMahon.
Yeah, who storms into the ring is Vince McMahon.
This is that.
And
yes.
You don't want that guy storming anywhere.
And he is just fucking pissed the fuck in the way that only Vince McMahon, as the crazy man that he is, could be.
In a way, it's all he's not acting right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's lost his.
Yeah, he's
his
a maniac.
show has just gone to hell.
Yeah.
And just as he climbs into the ring, he breaks both his quads.
Both his quads off the connecting tendons on the back of his hips.
Yeah.
So he can't stand.
And he's directing them, but he can't stand. So there he is sitting in this pouting stance, yelling at his superstars. And it was just an absolute one train wreck after the other. And both those men are involved on it. And I'm very happy to get that up because it was our only opportunity to talk about actual wrestling.
We should
events
probably talk
this
about that once or twice.
WrestleMania.
And of course, as everyone knows, James Gunn was watching that episode that night and said to himself, "I'm going to make both of those guys movie stars."
I found my Drax and I found my Peacemaker.
Yeah,
and that's legendary.
That's legendary. That is legendary. So, gentlemen, does this movie have a certain something, or is it just a whole lot of nothing?
Troy,
I would say it's got a little tiny bit of something.
Little tiny something.
It was sweeter than I thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
The kid who plays Cal, whose name escapes me at the moment.
His name is Devin Gray.
Gray,
And hey,
right?
this is somewhat relevant. We recently were talking about Mark Hamill and his long-running role as the Trickster. Devin Gray is the new
version.
Trickster,
okay.
who sort of
On The
teams
Flash.
up with the old Trickster in the
okay.
episode of The Flash. Yes.
Yes,
That's what he's gone on to do.
Vancouver connection there.
Yeah.
he was okay in this movie. I thought he
was
had
perfectly serviceable. Yep.
I thought he had a bit of a Jesse Eisenberg energy when Jesse Eisenberg goes super intense. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I would say that this movie isn't that great. It's pretty schmaltzy in parts, but there's a pretty over the top performance from Patricia Clarkson that comes out of nowhere and is damn girl, you're swinging for the fences. In
You hire Clarkson, you get the full Clarkson. She's never given you half.
But I think this movie is corny enough that if you were to watch it in a group sitting, you could wring some laughs out of the whole experience.
we did.
Because it's just that super cliched inspirational sports movie. Mm-hmm. And most of the laughs that we had was just trying to figure out who Danny Glover is.
Yes. I am so it's just so much funnier if he's just a guy.
Yeah.
If he's just
If he was
a
just
random
some
dude.
guy who
Yeah.
just happened to show up.
Yeah. And if he was just all this is my fishing pond. I need to get this teenage boy out of here because people are gonna start saying
I'm going to
things
just
about
say
me.
absolute gibberish and not give him any help.
And then it ends up with him in the auditorium watching the wrestling thing. Is all I have made several mistakes. I don't know. I don't know how I got. How did I get here? I'm not supposed to
Should
be
not
here
have
right
given
now.
that nerdy friend the pyro.
Danny Glover set up everything. This movie's totally fine.
Yeah.
It's I guess if I had to go within the conventions that I myself have set up, I will say this movie has a certain something, but only a little certain something. It's not offensive to watch. You
No.
can
Not
watch it.
offensive.
It's a movie you can watch. If you want to watch a movie, you can watch this one, as we did. But you really can't say anything more than that.
It's not spectacular.
Yeah.
It's
And Cena is okay. He didn't he's obviously gotten a lot better. He really kind of nailed, in terms of dramatic acting, he nailed looking away at something, looking pensive at something off into the background. In his scenes with Patricia Clarkson, she's doing all the heavy lifting and he's just kind of
reacting to
I'm
it.
sad.
Yeah.
I'm conflicted right now.
But he didn't detract from the movie.
No, and he's totally serviceable. He does a fine job and
he
he's
does
totally
in those
fine.
scenes with Patricia Clarkson what
Is
an
needed.
actor should do.
What is needed of
He
him.
just gave her the energy.
Yep, he's listening.
And let her do his thing.
He's in
Let her do her
the
thing.
he's in the zone. He's totally fine. Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't, let's be fair, given much.
Yeah.
You know, his character's pretty two-dimensional.
Well, like from what we've seen of John Cena since then, is like he can do a lot more.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He absolutely did. Like, you know, he absolutely has gotten stronger or was given better material to work with.
Yeah. And I think he'll only continue to be given better and better material. I think looking
to see a WrestleMania 40-something match where it's 60-year-old John Cena and 60-year-old Dwayne Johnson going at it for the rights to call themselves the biggest movie star out of WWE.
Oh,
it could happen. I mean, like, so this is the last episode of the 4th annual WrestleMania here, and we've taken the time to take a look. I guess it's the end of the miniseries. So, Jameson, what have we learned? Have we learned anything about these three actor turned wrestlers here? Who do you think is going to? Because like Batista and Cena are only on the upswing. Johnson's on a bit of a downswing. People are getting a little tired of him, a little tired of his persona.
I think he needs to do Tooth Fairy too.
232?
Tooth Fairy.
Oh, Tooth Fairy 2. Well, they already made Tooth Fairy 2 with Larry the Cable Guy, so that's a thing. That's a movie that exists, my friend. That's sort of.
Sorry, somebody got some pep.
We gotta get out of here. That's like a thing that Larry the Cable Guy is doing right now. He's doing sequels to movies
That
starring
shouldn't be sequeled.
big guys in like kid roles, because he's also done Jingle All the Way too. So that is what Larry the Cable Guy is currently up to right now. So maybe they'll do like a legacy sequel where like Larry the Cable Guy meets Dwayne Johnson.
The Tooth Fairy cinematic
The Tooth
universe.
Fairies? Tooth Fairies.
Okay.
Just call it Tooth Fairies.
Or Two Fairies.
Yeah,
Tooth
Two
Fairy
Fairies.
twos.
Well, no, that's
Neither of them will sign
that
up for
opens like a string of.
TWO the fairies.
Oh, okay.
We could do,
Okay, you can't actually see my look of terror on my face at this whole thought.
or the number 2. The number 2, the fairies. Yeah.
All right, well,
there we go.
I learned that we should have a crack at making a movie starring a wrestler, because I can tell you right now, it's going to be a little bit better than both Empire State and Bushwick.
All right. Troy Young, thanks for coming on the show, man. It was fantastic to
being here,
hang
man.
out with you today. Everyone should watch Peacemaker and watch you get murdered by a child. Anything else that you wanna promote? Anything you got going on?
Unfortunately, I don't have anything to share at the moment.
It is, it's kind of a dead time
Not at all.
right now in terms of filming things. We talked a little bit about auditioning before going in here. I haven't auditioned in
There's been a
several
couple.
months. Yeah.
I've got one tomorrow I got to do. There was a couple last weekend. I mean, things are happening. Things are being shot.
Yeah.
COVID has caused some really interesting challenges. but
Absolutely.
we're all finding our way through it. And I've learned how to turn my house into a studio.
Yeah.
That's
As
what
of
you
we, as
gotta
of
do.
we all.
That's what you got to do. Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Well, thanks a lot for hanging out with us, man. And there we go. Jameson, another WrestleMania.
In the books.
In the books. And next episode, we will finally...
Resume
we will resume our trilogy on the Nothing movies of Linda Hamilton. I know you've all been dying for us to get back to that well.
Our
but
one listener's like, oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, they did do that, didn't they? They did release an episode on the boring sex drama that I don't even
That
remember.
Jim Belushi tour de force.
Oh yes, of course, Jim Belushi in an erotic thriller. It happened. We watched it, Troy, and we regret.
That look of terror.
We regret everything. But that was legendary, directed by Mel Adamski. If you enjoyed this episode, please check us out more. We have a previous podcast to this one called The Fuck Is This? That's basically
It's the
this
same
It's
show.
the
You gotta
same
stop
show.
saying we have a previous show. It's a continuation.
We did this show
We renamed
before
it.
this. We renamed it. It's
New
basically
format, but
this.
it's like it went
New
from
format.
Justice League to Justice League Unlimited. It's like it's the same fucking show.
Okay,
same
it's,
continuity,
it's,
all right?
it's,
Like,
it's
Jesus
Batman
Christ.
the Animated Series Season 4. If you want to just listen to the rest of our episodes, please. We're on Spotify. We're on YouTube. If you want a visual element to the show, you'll watch us on YouTube because Jameson adds all these things and photos and clips and
Doodads and-
whatchamacallits. It's great. We'd like to thank Joel Flynn and Luke Schuss and Podstream Studios for letting us use their equipment. We'd like to thank Eddie Lamb for his fantastic theme music. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and all of the other social medias. And that's it. Next week, more Linda Hamilton. Until then, I'm Kaz.
And I'm Jameson.
And we're just, sitting here. We're just like doing like our regular thing. I'm just going to turn over my back. Oh my God, it's John Cena! That's how that works, right?
Yeah.
I actually don't know. I actually started talking to him all like, I don't think I know how that meme works. But anyway, but he's here. He's been here the entire time. And
Hi, boys. I don't know.
It's very awkward. Wow.
You can hear him, but
You can hear him.
you
Just
can't
can't
see
see
him.
all doing the thing in front of our faces. All right, bye, everyone.